Call the meeting to order then. The land acknowledgement. The Peace River School Division respectfully acknowledges that the land on which we are located is treaty territory, the traditional home of the Cree and the Dene, as well as a land base for the Métis Nation within Alberta. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today, and for those who have gone before us. We are grateful for the wisdom and the truths they have provided to us for the purpose of continuing to learn and grow. We recognize the land as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on or participating. We'll start out with the consent agenda, and remember that anything on this agenda that you want to talk about just have to have a poll at the end of the meeting, otherwise we're not coming back to it. So 2.1 is the minutes. 2.1.1 is the minutes from a regular board meeting of June 18th. 2.1.2 is the minutes from the organizational meeting on June 18th.
Actually, the one before.
A regular meeting?
There was just an error. That I moved that we pass it, and there's that error.
Okay. That's 2.1.1. 2.2 standard motions. 2.3 financial monthly report. 2.4 standing committee reports. 2.5 trustee school community reports. We have the 2.5.1 is the May 12th High Street Council meetings minutes. 2.6 is the superintendent's report. 2.7 is correspondence. 2.7.1 is the June 19th PRSD letter to the minister reread our 3 washrooms. 2.7.2 is the July 7th Minister McDougall response to the PRSD letter to the Fairview College.
Can I pull that one?
2.7.2. Uh, 2.7.3 is the July 8th letter from the Clear Hills County approving the 2027 grant. 2.7.4 is the July 27th PRSD response to the Clear Hills County RETA grant. There's nothing else there. Can we have a motion to adopt a consent agenda, please?
Yep.
Marie, all in favor? There's 6.
That's as amended, right?
As amended, yeah. For our strategic, we've got 4.1 report on business carried out over the summer, Superintendent Thompson. 4.2 Family Matters Week, Superintendent Thompson. And on 4.2, we're going to need a motion on that when we're done. 5 is generative. 5.1 is the superintendent's vision for the 2026-2027 season or school year. 5.2 is a Dixonville property update with Superintendent Thompson. 5.3 is a Red Creek project update, Superintendent Thompson. 5.4 industry advancement grant, Superintendent Thompson. Staffing update on 5.5, Superintendent Thompson. 5.6 departmental presentation discussion, Trustee Rushton. 5.7 is a presentation from 11:30 till noon from the Fairview Regional Campus Society. Tegan Martin Drysdale and Peggy Johnson are going to be here to talk about what their not-for-profit society is doing. And I'm hoping that if things work out just right, that sometime about 11:20 or 11:25, we can break, have a washroom break, maybe grab a coffee while they're getting set up in their presentation. And they're going to stay with us for lunch. So if the questions run over and there's not enough time, we can still continue that during lunch break.
Yeah.
5.8 is the Rural Health Professionals Action Plan Conference, and Trustee Dixon is speaking up. 5.9 is delegations. We don't have any. 5.10 is a standing committee, and there's none. 5.11 is quarterly, and that's not this month. Then we go to our fiduciary, and 6.1 is in camera. We talk about land, labor, and legal. 6.2 is policy development and review. 6.2.1 is policy 10. And I think everybody got my email yesterday that there's a change in that. So hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at it. 6.2.2 is board policy 2, appendix A, the board annual work plan. We just finished that the other day. I'll speak to that one today. Standing committee items, board policy 08, ASBA board policy 9, PSBAA board policy 3, rural caucus board annual work plan, board policy, student appendix, and the trustee calendar.
So 6.3.2 PSBA, that's where I can give my report from our last meeting.
Yes,
I'm gonna probably do.
yeah, all of those 6.3.1, 6.3.2, and 6.3.3 will be done in camera.
Okay.
Is there anything else that we've missed on the agenda? Or everything good? If there's no changes, can somebody please move to accept the agenda?
Also,
Okay, trustee Warren, all in favor? 6 of us. So I think we're at 4.1, Superintendent Thompson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to share my screen here now and oh, here we do that. Yeah. So we do the business over the summer first there. And as you know, Mr. Chair, there's a motion in policy, actually there's a policy statement that gives the authority to the management team to do business over summer up to $250,000, I think it is.
We're allowed to approve over that vote in the summer.
Yeah.
In lieu of having a board meeting and
Right.
ratifying it.
That's right, up to that amount, right?
No, we can approve up to 250 anytime,
Yes, but in the summer, it's
In the
what is it,
summer.
what do we say?
whatever happens.
Yeah, so there was a motion in our June meeting from the board that gave the authority to do that. And normally what we would do is at this meeting, we'd have a report on the work done that cost money beyond the normal threshold. However, there wasn't a lot of work this summer in that regard, other than work that you already knew about, the bathroom updates in Fairview, in Grimshaw, the flooring in Grimshaw that was the result of flooding from last winter. The new portable did arrive for Grimshaw, and they're in the process of scrambling to get it together now. We were there 2 days ago, and it's looking good. I think they're aiming to be ready for the beginning of the year. And the only other significant pieces of work were done here this summer with the yard. And Rhonda, if you could just speak to that piece for a moment, please.
Sure. So we knew that the tenders weren't going to close before the June board meeting, and the work that we're doing in the yard is all under the collegiate school grant, the capital revenue that we received. The contracts that came in totaled $300,000, really in two parts, one for fencing and one for actually the yard work, taking up the rest of the grass and topsoil and putting down gravel and finishing off the other half of the yard on that side, which is so terrible, but not so beautiful. So that way, that work has started. We are waiting for the contractor to get some additional equipment so they can finish that work. It is a local contractor and we only received one bid, but it was well within what the expectation was. So we're currently doing that work now.
And Mr. Chair, one of the things you might notice, say the next time you come into this parking area, it would be a slight alteration of the parking space here. We're going to, where some staff members park now, we're going to extend that out a little bit and park buses out there more in the front versus in the back where they tend to be more subject to vandalism. And the parking will be dual traffic in and out. So if you come in this way, right here and out this way with a loop that way, it will also expand the parking over on the other side. That's now a current way, and you stay to the right when you come in, that will become parking. So you'll be come into the left side, double traffic. There'll be a loop around there, and it will extend the traffic, the parking space here, while also building capacity for busing just outside the end of the building here.
Any questions on that?
When did you say that was?
That's happening pretty soon here.
Yeah, we're working on the yard and the fencing. They'll kind of work in tandem. The new fencing and new parking might happen before the yard is completely finished. But we're expecting by October, everything should be done.
So your next board meeting, here, the parking may be done here, but
Yeah.
everything will be finalized before snow.
Well, we had to take a different route in this morning. You couldn't go around the outside.
Yeah.
I know.
Those guys working.
Okay,
It just starts.
So,
okay, it was after I got here because I went missing.
They waited until most people.
There you go.
Well, sorry.
Go ahead.
One thing I did notice is that, handicap parking spot is not very big. It's handicap and then other stalls for staff or whatever. That should be a
Yeah,
couple
right here?
of feet wider. Yeah, right. in front.
Yeah, so that's the one right in front here, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so, Mr. Chair, yeah, it's, the width of the parking spaces hasn't been, well defined, so, so what happens is that, sometimes I come in there in the mornings and I'll park there and I'll park a little bit over on that space so as to ensure there's enough
Yeah.
space for all of the others. So that's something we'll look at when we do the.
There's also nothing on the other side of that, so really, there's no parking to the left of that handicap spot, so that whole space can be used for handicap parking. It's just not marked very well, so we'll work on that.
Okay.
The one thing I noticed is, the sea cans out here, and I know years ago, the town of Grimshaw said you could have one sea can in your yard and that's it. So they have the bylaws changed. You could do more now. or-
They've allowed us all of the sea cans we have. They're just there right now while we're putting up new fencing and doing the work. And they'll be moved out of the location that they're at now. They're just there temporarily, but, we're permitted by the town to have all of those, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, nothing more. 4.2. family matters.
Sorry, can we have a motion to, approve, the work done here?
Yeah.
Second.
Trustee Bajewski, all in favor? No, we're going to 4.2. Oh, there were 6 of us, sorry.
Six, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Families matter. They absolutely do, a whole lot. And so we have Families Matter Week. Once upon a time, we used to have Family Matters Day, I believe, and then we decided, well, let's capture the full week and allow schools to decide what day of the week they would celebrate parents, or if they were going to do something different.
Isn't it Parents Matter?
Yes, it used to be Parents
Originally,
Matter
yeah.
originally, yes, thank you. And some schools will designate a day. In other schools, something happens for all of the days of the week. So it varies by school, and of course, with site-based decision making, they do what they believe is most appropriate for their context, and school councils are involved in that, so it's a nice positive thing. So last year, we had a motion to say that the week for Families Matter would be during it's a shortened week, it's a 4-day week, as Monday is a holiday, family day holiday, which is a holiday that occurs in Alberta and throughout many other provinces. And the intention last year was to have a motion such that this would be, I guess, established in the calendar forever moving forward. But the way that the motion was stated and passed, it really left some unclarity with regard to that. It was like it was only passed for 1 year. So what we would want this time around is for the board to consider a motion that moving forward, Family Matters Week would be the week in February that starts with Monday being the family holiday, and the 4 days after that would be locked in as something we could put in the calendar permanently.
Do you have a sample motion you would like?
That the board declare the week of the Family Day holiday in February, Families Matter Week annual.
Yeah.
I'll move.
Any discussion before we have the motion? Everybody's pretty clear on what's going on?
Yeah.
Okay, trustee Shabelski makes a motion. In favor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That's the other presentation you wanted to show us or something, did you?
5.1, Mr. Chair, yeah, and my apologies to the board for my eagerness in getting to the presentation. I went there before we got to the other items. As we start this, I just want to also take the, given that we're going to be talking about some of this, some of the things in this department now, welcome Eden to the table this morning as a new team member. And I'll share a little bit more this morning about the work that we've done in our transitioning as we try to build a team moving forward. So welcome to you, Hayden, and Cheryl is back, of course, and we're all glad to be back here working with you this year. So a little, last week when the board chair and vice chair met with myself and Rhonda to get an agenda, finalize the agenda for today, or to shape it up for today, the conversation came up around perhaps doing some sort of presentation to the board, sort of a year in review and of looking forward piece, which makes a lot of sense. And then the conversation folded as to when would be the best time for that. You know, it's either June or August, and we thought, okay, this is a good opportunity. So I've started something here today that might look very different next year, based on feedback from you or feedback from my team members. And then, but I think it's the beginning of a good process that there's a couple of things. It, I guess, brings attention to the things that we really should be celebrating from both an operations and governance level perspective. It helps new trustees to get further orientated around the stuff that's going on that you may or may not know about. And there's a lot of other benefits to it. So what I thought I'd do, and again, this is, for some of you, you would not know this, but just to take us back, and this presentation is based on this, and it's probably going to be, Mr. Chair, a half hour to 40 minutes, if that's okay.
Oh,
And I could speed it up as necessary. So back in 2024, then Superintendent Murray let us all know that he was moving on. And so that was a little bit of a surprise on some levels. And so I took over in the role of acting, effective mid-November. And then the board decided it was going to recruit a superintendent. And through the jigs and reels, the conversation was had with me as to whether or not I'd be interested. And I shared with the board at the time that when the former superintendent, Bennett, was retiring, Adam had asked me if I was going to be applying for the superintendency. And I said, well, if you are, I won't, because I'd like to work with you, and I'm not going to be here as long as you, Adam. And so that's how it all played out. So I was content to sort of stay in my role as deputy superintendent, move on. But anyway, things unfolded. The board set up a recruitment process and began the process, engaged a consultant from ASBA, and then I had a conversation with him at the ASBA general meeting in November in Edmonton. And after that, the board decided, okay, they were going to work and ask me to take over the superintendencies, but asked me to come to a December 4th meeting, talk about what my thoughts are around this and priorities and things. So this presentation sort of picks up from there. I thought I shared some stuff in 2024. So how have things gone since then? So this particular report would be sort of over a 2-year period. So looking back, would go back to then. I thought that might be a reasonable approach. Next year, of course, it will be looking back 1 year. So that's the basis of it. So I'll take a minute or two to explain a couple of slides, then I'll get into the new stuff, if that's okay with everybody. So back then, when I met with the board, I started with 5 or 6 bullets on where I would want to see the PRSD in 5 years. Not saying that I was going to be superintendent for 5 years, because one of my hesitancies in saying, yes, I'm going to be applying was, if the board was looking for somebody for 5 years, then I probably, to be fully transparent about it, it would be a challenge for me to say, oh, yes, I'm here for 5 years and 3 beyond that. Time ticks. And so I thought, so this is where I would like to see the board in 5 years, whether or not I was here or not. So on student achievement, significant improvements in academic achievement, narrowing of achievement gaps between Indigenous and non-Indigenous learners, and narrowing of the gaps between division and province. So that's through a strong continued focus on the academic press that we've been trying to move forward in schools. So that was goal one. Goal two, regarding the financial health of the organization, that we've stabilized a lot of our spending and have created efficiencies, and through board advocacy, we've been able to get more funding. We have excellence in governance and operations, and great structures in place, and funding models have shifted, and we've made some tough decisions around areas of expenditure that we can no longer sustain. And financially, we're in a decent place, assuming reasonable funding levels continue to come forward. On culture and efficiency, I spent some time talking about the interdepartmental harmony that needs to exist within the organization, and that, you know, when organizations operate at high speed, there's oftentimes wobbles in the wheel. Some people are not quite as happy or not content, and two people don't get along with each other like they should. That's normal for organizations. So my vision was that 5 years from now, from then, we're now into the second year of that we'd have a lot more cohesion within the departments of this big organization, so that we could be modeling every single day the exact behavior we expect of everybody else, and not be hypocritical, because we expect that in schools, and we've got to model it here. We expect parents to treat us in a certain way. We have to treat them in the way we want them to treat us. So that whole piece. And then the next one was on recruitment and retention, that we streamline processes, and we're partnering even more intensely with post-secondaries. And we've reached out to municipalities to say, hey, you play a really important role in, one, us attracting teachers to your community, and two, them staying after they're there. So how the community reacts to teachers and supports them in all kinds of different ways, sometimes little subtle ways. Hey, invite me over for supper, or hey, here's a load of dry firewood that you can put in your stove for those cool days in January, make a huge difference. So there's that piece. And that we would get to we established a new deputy superintendent. I'll come to that a little later, to help with the succession planning for a new superintendent in time. On the governance and operations side, I spent some time saying, hey, in 5 years, I'd like to see a very clear alignment between governance and operation structures and processes, such that that's effective and efficient, and the governors are really on point on their role, so that then the role of the superintendent and his staff, it becomes a lot easier to do, and spend some time talking about what that might look like. And including a full review of administrative procedures and policies and so on. So then the other piece I had in that slide deck at that time was my initial priorities. Priority one, academic achievement. Now I'll speed this up in a second, so you just get the flavor of it. Academic achievement. So I added, the first part was talking about what would continue to do. Then there were some details pieces, like the achievement gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous students is not where it needs to be, and between PRSD students and province. And then my initial focuses. So here's what I said I would do. I'd focus on working with the strategic goals, continuing to foster collaborative response, strengthen leadership capacity within our schools, provide quality-focused PD, review our Indigenous education budget, and the focus, foster division level and school-based collaboration. So now I put that there, and I'll have these for the other ones, because in a moment I want to get to, well, how have we done? How have I moved forward with some of the things that I said I wanted to do? And remember, I was visioning in December 2024, subsequent to which the board said to me, hey, we'd like for you to take over the position for the next 3 years. Now I moved forward with that work. Okay. So the next priority was financial health. You'll see here that I talked about one of the challenges we've had. It's only in the last 2 years, really, where we've had to operate within the money government gave us, because we can no longer rely on surpluses to bail us out. So when Adam was there in his first year as superintendent, as he was departing, we kept saying, this is going to be the toughest it gets unless government gives us a different funding channel. We're going to be in tough, because we're going to have to stay within our footprint. We won't be able to spend beyond, because we don't have that on the book surplus to bail us out. So I talked about what I would do. Immediate review and prioritization of plants and operations maintenance work. I'm going to come to that again a little later. Streamline the admin team. That's coming up a little later. Re-examine the alternative education program. We did that. We're doing it again this year. I'll tell you why in a moment. Review the status of underutilized schools. And we did that once, and I think we're going to need to probably do it at least one more time, perhaps two or three, and I'll come to that a little later as threats and challenges ahead, and support board advocacy through, work through more, for more funding. So the admin structure in December 2024 was like this. We had a superintendent and a deputy superintendent. That was actually 0.6 because at that time, I was the deputy superintendent moving in. So, and I spoke with the leaders. He agreed to come on for a 0.6 capacity. And we were looking at, here was the structure. We said we would move forward to try to recruit another deputy superintendent that would take over from Alida. And we also in the next year, this past year, we would operate in HR at 0.5. We did that this year, not without its challenges. And you know some of the reasons why. HR is every day. So when you have somebody 2.5 days a week or even 3 days a week, it's tough. And it was a tough slog, but we managed to get through and we operated on a leaner team. Part of the reason for that was we were transitioning, but the other part of the reason for that is that when we look at the admin budget, the money in the administrative side of the budget, you all know last spring we had a $70,000 or $80,000 gap there, and we had to make some decisions. The board made some decisions. Administratively, we made some decisions, and we managed to get through. That gets tougher and tougher and tougher as we move forward. On the interdepartmental harmony and efficiency side, the workplace culture, some of the things I said I'd do, implement a plan to improve the facilities department by creating a brand new department. I'll talk about that in a little while, because there were some significant challenges with regard to culture and climate in those departments or in that department. So we said, let's start there. We said we would spend some time looking at who people were, who are the trailblazers, eager to change, who are those who are willing to follow, who are those who are willing to fall in line thereafter. Who are the ones who resist and want to stay where they are? And who are those who are outright saboteurs or saboteurs behind the scenes who really don't want the change to go ahead and they're going to do everything to stop it from going ahead? So we've done a lot of work around that. We've done some work around, I said we would do work around nurturing a positive and supportive culture among staff and also with the parents and communities. Here's the chart that I've shared at the time that we would actually create a director of school operations, blending together the tech department and the former facilities and maintenance department into one, to be led by Shane Pearson, who was the former tech department director. And that did unfold. We met in December, January, we initiated the process. And I'll share a little bit more about that a little later. So that department, by the way, in earlier years, in 2017, 18, there would have been 12, 13 people in that department combined, probably even more. We're down to, probably at 8 or 9 or 10 in the operations and maintenance department alone. And we're down to 5 people in that department now. It's really lean and it's a threat that I'm going to talk about a little later, Mr. Chair. On recruitment and retention, it's things I said that we do. We confirm key hiring periods, proactively post jobs to be ahead of our competitors, enhance partnerships and so on. Work through more online, more flexible online platforms for our hiring. We've done a lot of that, and I'll share some stuff about that a little later. On succession planning for the superintendency, we talked about hiring a deputy superintendent. I talked about in my actions, I would continue with that position. Transition the director of human resources position out of the organization with HR duties to be assigned to the deputy. And some other pieces there. Of course, we did advertise for a deputy, and we weren't successful in recruiting, so we pivoted to plan B. I'll share a little more about that a little later, about challenges, setbacks, so on. And then the priority area 6, the last one that I identified in 2024, was to be supportive of the board in its governance work. And, I talked about what that means and, to build on the long-standing record of excellence in governance. And I said, I would fulfill my duties as the chief executive officer of the board to support board governance, work in ways to foster optimal coexistence between governance and operations so that you zero in on the work that you have to do so that then I can zero in on the work that I need to do in a really cohesive kind of way so that we're in tandem with each other. Talk about the board advocacy piece to help ensure the financial health of the corporation and so on. And to make sure that operationally and from a management perspective, the work that we're doing is aligned with the governance wishes of the board. And in that, I talked about how the board executes the work of the chief executive officer through motions of the board, and not through somebody saying, "Hey, can you do this?" Got to be at the board table through a motion that gets passed, then I take direction and move forward. A great example of that was when Dixonville, the process unfolded. I presented information to the board had a discussion, a motion came to the table that gave me direction to move forward to develop a preliminary viability report, subsequent to which 2 months later, we presented that report, and then the board carried out its governance piece in tandem with the operations piece, and it worked, in my view, in a very, very seamless kind of way. It was an extremely emotional, but very smooth process under a very tight timeline, by the way. And so now then, back to the academic achievement piece. So I'm going to go back now, and this is where I'm going to be looking back over the last 2 years in more detail and moving forward. So back to this one. So here are some successes and celebrations from 24 to 26. They're not all there, but just some key ones. Collaborative response is now well established in our schools, or at least most of them. There's 1 or 2 hotspots because of transitioning of principals in and out over time. But on the whole, we feel we're in a very good place. We did establish a student success facilitator positions in almost all of our schools. Napa and Berwyn are 2 exceptions. I think we have other supports there to provide supports to all students, including our Indigenous students. We focused our efforts to better support our self-declared Indigenous learners by shifting the responsibility to all teaching and administrative staff, because the TQS5 and I think it's the LQS5 as well, both of them say that teachers must be proficient in Indigenous language and culture to the point of helping those students feel more engaged and comfortable in school. So rather than a division level person or 2 and 1 or 2 people in 1 or 2 schools doing this, we've spread that out to actually double down and make a bigger impact than what we were doing. And I know there's been some conversations out there about perhaps the division not being committed to Indigenous education. I would counter argue to say we're now more committed than ever, because we're saying the heavy lifting now needs to be spread with every teacher. So if I'm a teacher in Peace River School Division, I've got obligations to ensure that I'm following through on the TQS5. I invite elders into my classroom. I do all of the things that I need to do using the resources that are available to get that piece done.
Just a quick question on that, Jeff. So, so that expectancy is going on the teachers now to bring that within the classrooms, is what you're saying?
The teachers have had that expectation since TQS has been in place since at least 2020, 2021. So that's always been an expectation. But what we did is we tried to build the capacity by providing extra supports here. And now we're sort of backing off on those supports because we're saying, tag, you're it. Because we've done the things at the division level that we feel we needed to do. We still have division level supports available. We still have 1 program coordinator for Indigenous education. And we made another move. We've spread the responsibilities around Indigenous education to not only the program coordinator for Indigenous education, but our other program coordinator learners, coordinator team here, our curriculum specialists and our inclusive ed coaches that are here. So it's not just 1, it's 6 or 7 here that are still available to assist if need be.
Okay, so you do follow up on that then to ensure that happens.
We, part of our response, well, 2 things. 1, the principal is responsible primarily at the school level, and we're now available to assist as needed. So we don't get involved to the same extent now to actually go and phone up the elder and say, hey, can you go? But we help a school with that, as they're moving forward with that work, they need to reach out to an elder, or they don't have a contact, they reach out to us and then we help facilitate that.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. We've refocused our efforts to address student attendance challenges. I'll come to that a little later. We did get some extra money from government for EA support and for complex education teams for K-6 and now a 7 and 12 one. Our student achievement gaps certainly haven't been narrowed like we would like. And in fact, this year there wasn't much movement at all. And I'll talk about that a little later. There's some very obvious reasons as to why. 1 might have been a strike, and 2 might have been about 25 days when we couldn't run buses because of bad weather, and the attendance rates were extremely challenging. Setbacks. We did reduce 1 program coordinator position. We had 2 in place for 1 year only, and then with the budget piece last year, remember we were $350,000 short overall. We made 2 decisions. 1, we moved 1 program coordinator position for Indigenous education, And we capitalized on an opportunity because one of our program coordinators decided she was going to move back to a classroom position that was attractive to her. So through attrition, we said, okay, we can save one there. And then when Hayden came on as the assistant superintendent, we created another opportunity. We did backfill his principalship with James Popoda, but we didn't backfill James Popoda's position. So that allowed us to narrow the gap for last year, for the current year coming. We have ongoing significant student and staff absenteeism over the last few years. That's been a major challenge. And I would say last year was probably among our worst challenges for both students and staff. It's a major issue for us. Significant disruptions because of labor dispute. I've already talked about that. Weather conditions. Shortage of substitute teaching staff. That's been a major disruption. And again, I already spoke the teacher strike piece should have been deleted there because it was above. And significant challenges relating to the delivery of new curriculum, I would say, because the new curriculum has had lots of challenges. We're getting to a better place for sure, but there's still challenges around appropriate resources being made available. The way this unfolded, the Alberta Education did not come up with here are the resources with the new curriculum. They reach out to school jurisdictions to say, hey, has anybody developed some? Maybe we'd be interested in partnering with you to get them made available to others. So that's been a real challenge, and Cheryl and her team have been working really hard to try to address that so that teachers are in a better place. So there's a little flash on successes and celebrations and some challenges and setbacks. I'll now go to, so that you can read it a bit better, I'll go to the last part, priorities and trends ahead. So let's go to the bottom of this same slide. I just thought I'd put it there twice so you can read it a little better. So priorities moving ahead. Well, we've just established a new structure for our school admin professional learning throughout this year. So we will be doing deliberate professional learning with our administrators when we have admin meetings, and the business portion of that we're going to do at a different time, 3:30 to 4:30 in the afternoons once a month, so that when we have everybody here, either here in person or virtually, we're doing quality PD to build leadership capacity in schools, to be better instructional leaders, along with plan management piece that they need to do. So walkthroughs and what are the look fors and how do you know when a teacher's struggling and what do you do about it? And it's literacy and numeracy being taught like we need it to be taught so that gaps in achievement are narrow. So we're going to really double down on that and provide administrators with good quality PD. School-wide attendance plans are being developed as a part of the ongoing focus to improve attendance rates with students and staff. So Cheryl is doing a piece around students, and we've been doing work in HR around staff absenteeism and what are the absenteeism rates by school and the what are the categories of absenteeism. It is it's phenomenal. But anyway, we're working our way through that. I mentioned already, division level staff have the Indigenous education responsibilities for next year. We're spreading that out, distributing that leadership. Responsibilities are now with all staff in all schools. Schools are also receiving more money to support Indigenous education success. So we increased the amount per student per school so that if a particular teacher has an idea, there's some resources to support that. So we've shifted money from here to schools, and that was received very, very well by administrators as far as I understand. And we're going to continue our work to narrow achievement gaps by refocusing on literacy and numeracy development, and particularly classroom instruction and high impact instruction that's research proven. We're going to continue that work. But I will say student academic achievement has been in the time I've been here, long before I arrived, and probably a little bit after I'm gone, and hopefully not too long after I'm gone, continues to be a challenge. But I'll say this: students who arrive on our doorstep every day, day in and day out, from kindergarten to grade 12, and put a reasonable effort in, generally do very, very well. So if they show up, what we've been able to say is that they get good quality instruction that positions them extremely well. If they don't show up, and if they show up and they don't put their shoulder into it, then it becomes a different matter. That's the part we have to really zero in on. And unfortunately, our data suggests that the students who aren't showing up much, and when they do, they aren't putting their shoulder into it, the overrepresentation is our self-declared Indigenous students for all kinds of different complex reasons. Not that they can't learn, because that is not true at all. They're quite capable. In fact, some of our Our Indigenous students have many talents, and they have, they're quite capable, but there are other challenges sometimes that actually inhibit them from learning, and when you don't show up, that's the part we gotta get to. How can we get them to show up and stay there all day long? So, to the financial health. So here's what I said 2 years ago. Some of the things I said I'd do, and we, change the org chart, and we re-examine alternative education and so on. What have we done? So over the last couple of years, we've done a number of things. One, we successfully transitioned two new members in payroll, because we had one person left the organization, one person went on a long-term maternity leave, and we're not sure of the status if she's coming back or not. And so it's been difficult navigating through a strike, and then we had to pay people retroactively for the pay that was owed to them when the imposed settlement was placed on them, and they navigated through generally quite well. We're pleased with that. We've been able to develop and operate within two extremely tight budgets over the last 2 years. You would all know about that because you approved those budgets. They were the tightest two budgets that have been in place since I've been here. And I'm going to argue probably the tightest two budgets that a board for the Peace River School Division has approved for a long time, perhaps tens of years, because we don't have a reserve to rely upon. In 2015 and 16, we were generating massive amounts of surplus money, and now we don't get enough money to do normal maintenance and repair on our buildings. This past year, we got a little extra infusion, but it is extremely lean, and we've had deficits in those that particular category spending over time.
Are we still restricted as to the amount we can have in reserves? Still at 2 million?
We are within our reserve. Got to be less than 5% of your annual budget, and we're at 2.3 or 4. So we're actually on the low end. Some school jurisdictions I've heard still haven't gotten down to the 5% target yet, but we've met government's requirement to spend now. So that means we don't have that pot is dried up now, so we can't go back to it. So now we have to spend within the footprint, and that's why the challenge. We've operated on a reduced administrative staff, as I've said, and we've streamlined the team for this coming year. I'll talk a bit more about that a little later. I immediately developed, or asked to have developed, I should put it that way, a reduced prioritized list of plants and facilities, plant operations and maintenance work that we could reasonably do with the staff, with the lean staff. And we talked about life safety had to be done. But we weren't going to be moving a wall because somebody said, well, it'd be really good if we had this wall moved because we could expand this or that. We had to say no to all of that. And I will give credit to our administrative teams and schools and staff. That's been received really well, because I think people understand the circumstance we find ourselves in. Like, we are strapped for cash. The days of lots of money or more money and being able to get funding through credits earned, those days are gone. And so the way that the board is funded now is dramatically different than what it used to be. We did successfully reduce the alternative education program last year, shifted the VET program to the 10 to 12 service delivery, which it was originally only ever intended to do, but we expanded it to K to 12 during the COVID year. There's a piece coming up later to saying we got to go back there again, unfortunately, for some reasons that I'll share in a moment. Some of the challenges and setbacks, there's been the requirements around reporting to our early childhood and development, education and childhood department has been astronomical. Other agencies have other reporting requirements as well. So we get some money now, and we have to write significant reports to talk about how we spent that money. So the amount of paperwork we have to do and how we have to report back to government is huge compared to what it used to be. Another setback I mentioned already was the deputy superintendent position. We weren't successful in soliciting viable applications, so we pivoted to Plan B, and luckily, and I'm happy to say we have now 2 assistant superintendents positions filled. Most of them are sitting next to you here or in the room with us today. But that does change something a little later that I'll talk about. Student enrollment in VET courses and home education continue to put a strain on the system, and we made a decision about home education last spring, as you know, that we're no longer going to be partnering with homeschooling parents, and we gave them advice as to school divisions that would partner with them. And the VET enrollment is going to be looked at very carefully by the end of September, with some very positive decisions to be made. Enrollment decline in our rural schools is probably our greatest challenge. I'll talk about that a little more in a moment. So looking ahead for priority 2, we're going to do a full review of VET and outreach with a view to further reduction in teachers and course offerings, because right now we're overly staffed. We're staffing schools with a certain number of teachers on the strength that some of those students are going to come to VET, and then VET, the numbers aren't high, and schools are coming forward saying, hey, we need more staff because we can't teach the courses that we're teaching. No, because you weren't supposed to be teaching those courses. They were supposed to be delivered through VET. So we have an overcapacity in VET now and pressure at the school level. So that's speaking to the fact that we're going to need to go back and do some sort of hybridized version of that. I'll share more details with you on that later in the fall, once we get to the finer point on that. But we really need to move in that direction in a very substantial kind of way.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, I didn't quite get that, what you were saying about VET is being underutilized because we're teaching it in the classroom.
So, Mr. Chair, what's happening is that, say, I won't name people, but I'll say a teacher at a school is teaching, say, English 20-2 to their students. And they said, hey, I'm willing to teach the 20-2 students from 2 other schools. So the students in those 2 other schools join in through a blended learning approach like we used to have once upon a time, and they're being taught that way. And somebody else says, well, I can teach social studies from my school, but I don't mind teaching the 2 kids from that school and the 3 from the other, and that's what's been happening. And that was the very reason we had VET teachers. So, and in fact, there have been requests for schools to have a little extra teaching time so that they can continue to do that. So what's coming to the forefront is a request from schools to say, hey, we'd like to go back to an altered blended learning approach combined with VET, because VET needs to exist for math 30-1, practice physics, and maybe some of the other sciences. But for the humanities, the English language arts and social studies, schools are saying to us they have internal capacity to teach that. And if, say, on the West End, the 3 schools there decide to partner up, a teacher in Worsley can teach English language arts to his or her own students and the 5 or 6 from the other 2 schools. And another school say, okay, if you do that, we'll do the social studies to take the social studies pressure out of our school. And that leaves VET teachers here with 3 students, 4 students.
So you're saying outreach is then down students?
So now there's the VET program, and outreach is separate. Right, outreach, PROC and Peace River Outreach and Falls is separate, but it's all under the umbrella of alternative education. So alternative education includes Falls, Peace River Outreach, VET, and there used to be home education through Peace Learning Connection. We're talking about the VET portion, but then there's also the outreach portion. So in Falls, for example, the numbers over the last couple of years have been really, really low. In Peace River, the numbers haven't been quite so low, but the number of students actually active and getting credits, like that, you might have 100 students in, but there could be 50 that are really active, the other 15 not so much. So we need to do a full review, because we've tied up a lot of teaching staff in that programming, and pressures are coming to bear at the school level now, because they pivoted to say, we're going back to a slightly different, a blended learning program than we used to have. So that's.
Thank you. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, once we get more details in the fall, we're going to be meeting with principals and saying, hey, this is a moment of reckoning that we can't sustain 2 or 3 extra teaching units. That's a big cost with the times we find ourselves in. We need to hear from you what will work, and then we'll put a model in place to make it work. And hopefully we're not doubling up on teaching staff, or pressures coming to bear saying we need more staff. When we're saying, well, you do have more staff. They're actually in VET. This is what we teach your students. Anyway, that's the essence of that, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, can I ask, so VET is run out of the facility at the outreach?
Yeah, so VET used to be out of air, but we moved everybody to outreach for a couple of different reasons. But one main one is that some of our VET teachers now are actually teaching courses through outreach. So VET teachers used to be exclusively VET, but now they might have a slot where they're actually helping students in the outreach program. And we have an outreach teacher, a very skilled outreach teacher, in sciences and Falls, who might have been traditionally all outreach for a small number of students, who might now be asked to do a virtual ed piece. So we're doing a blended approach and having our staff in Peace River help facilitate that.
But it's also true that some of them aren't even in the province, right?
Teachers?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had
People
two that
teaching
weren't,
that.
we had two that weren't in the province. Now it's down to one because Saxon Butte, a longtime employee of ours, resigned from us this past spring because he's picked up a job in Nova Scotia. with outreach. So, Mr. Chair, I'm looking at time and I'm going to speed this up a bit. I know I've been talking too fast yet, but people want to ask questions now, we can, or if you want to write them and save them for later, either way. I think there was one other question here. Let's say that.
Yeah, so I was just, on that piece where it said where a Worsley teacher might have a few of her students and a few other kids joining in. Does that mean like she'll be teaching her kids and the other kids are joining in online? Is that how
Yes.
it works?
Yes, with the piece that from time to time, they would go and leave Worsley and go and teach in Minnow that on a particular day, or in Hines Creek on a particular day. The other piece is that I suppose students now are, would be very familiar with those teachers. So when Hayden was teaching, he might have been at Peace High teaching a math class, and two students from Worsley were joined into that math class. While we made an effort for him to get out and meet those students, they didn't really know him that well. They always felt that they were the odd people out, because Hayden would be here when there's 20 students in the class, and now and again, the students who were in the small connected remotely, they would be try to bring them in, but they always felt that they weren't part of it. The strength of VET was that everybody in VET, no matter if the teacher was in the school, they all joined in through their computers. So it leveled the playing field a bit. So it's interesting that we're sort of going back to a model that people wanted to get away from. So we're going to explore that before we make good decisions. So the other challenges here, the rural small schools, I'll come back to that again later. It's a significant issue for us. Bus costs have gone through the roof. All other operational costs through all other departments, causing very significant financial strain, including taxes from municipalities, heating bills, and so on. Like with the money we get and the costs that we're having to absorb, it's huge. And by the way, partnerships with municipalities, I'll go out here and say, moving forward, it might not be a half bad idea for us to reach out to municipalities and say, hey, this is a school facility providing core services to the community. Is there a way that we can get a bit better of a rate on some of the taxes, for example? We have a couple of municipalities, perhaps, whose tax rates are huge compared to other municipalities. And so maybe at some point in time, that would be a good board advocacy piece to, through our joint municipalities meeting, it might be a topic to say, hey, have you ever gone back to look at what your rates are to the board? And maybe there's a conversation that might result in something.
Yeah, it's the utilities. And several years ago, we did have a conversation with one community about that. We didn't come to any resolution, but it's definitely part of the challenges that we're facing when all the costs are increasing and the revenue isn't correspondingly increasing.
We don't pay taxes though on the schools or anything like that.
We don't pay property tax on school properties, but non-school property, so all of the teacherages, and we pay tax on all of it.
What about the art hub? Do we still own that, and are we paying taxes on that?
We do own it, and currently, the art hub applies and receives an exemption so that they don't have to pay those taxes. Otherwise, we would have to build that into the rental cost.
Yeah. So, the details, obviously here, I need to get involved in a bit more, but I think there's some room to achieve some positive benefit to the organization. So, the last piece here on this one, now the biggest challenge of all is that we have to operate within a fixed overall budget because of no more surpluses and a fixed administrative budget. I just want to draw your attention to last spring's conversation, whereby we were short $70,000 thereabouts in the admin budget. The admin budget is the budget that sustains the trustee side and your administrative team. And we needed $70,000 bucks. And I think at the time, the solution was that there was and some decisions made to reduce the trustee side of it, and then we found the rest of the money through other agents. That's going to continue to be a big challenge for us. And at a point in time, it could actually mean the superintendent of the day having to make a decision around staffing. If that gap becomes wider and we're into $100,000 issue, let's say, and the board through its examination can't find that money, then that will, the only recourse will be the superintendent and the team at that time making a decision to cut staff. So it's a pretty serious matter for sure. Under interdepartmental workplace culture, I'll put it there. I talked about the fact that I would develop a new school operations department to merge former departments where there was, at least in one of those departments, I'll just say it, facilities department had lots of challenges. There was lots of chaos, lots of things not going right for all kinds of different reasons. One of them was we had two former, I'll say one former longstanding employee that was able to hold that together in a very positive kind of way overall. At least on the surface, it was good, which was great. When that person left and then the next person left, we ended up having a revolving door and a lot of discontent there. So I did move forward, and we continue, and we still do continue to promote AP 170, which is anchored in the board's safe and caring policy and the harassment policy, discrimination harassment policy. We promote that. We've asked all schools to promote that and model to behavior we expect of others. Each divisional manager was tasked with creating a culture, a positive culture within their own department, and then making sure that when they interface with other departments, that's positive. I would be right up front to say to you, am I happy with where that is right now? No. I'm still not happy with where that is. Have there been gains made? Absolutely. Substantial ones. Is there work left to be done? Absolutely. There's work left to be done. To the school operations department in and of itself, I've been very, very happy with how that's unfolded on the whole. And yet, we had some great progress for a while. And then in recent weeks, there's been some setbacks with regard to how some members of that team interact with each other, to the point where, as recently as 2 days ago, maybe it was yesterday, we had a conversation, say, okay, you know what, it's time, we need to notch this up a little bit more. Maybe I need to share with them the slide deck that I shared with the board in 2024 to say, here is my priority and here's what needs to be done. And maybe we have to assign homework to people to say, hey, not only do you have to read a little bit tongue in cheek here now, Mr. Chair, not only do you have to read AP 170, you're going to be tested on it next week. And you need to get a big score on that, and then you have to live that out. So buy-in, culture. There's an old saying that culture eats policy and APs for breakfast. So you can have all of the policies and administrative procedures you want, award-winning ones. You know, could be nominated for the world's best policies. They mean nothing if the culture is not there. Because culture eats those things for breakfast. So you have to have really good policies and administrative procedures to start, and then use them to get people to reculture. But it's a lot of work. It's actually exciting work once you get the ball rolling. It can be, but it also can be really stressful work for people if you're not comfortable having difficult conversations with people. So we're going to continue to work on that. Moving forward, I said that's going to continue to be a priority. We're going to help team members to understand their role in the education system. So no matter who you are on this team, whenever I have an opportunity to address the full group, I talk about the importance of the payroll person and the technician and the plumber and the bus driver and the mechanics and every department. We all do the backstage piece so that when the play unfolds, teacher and student contact, it's optimized. So I try to continue to, as a team, we try to continue to promote the fact that while they're removed from classrooms, their roles are critically important nonetheless. We have a growing concern regarding how parents and other community members are interacting with our staff, either face-to-face or through social media platforms. People are very on edge. Our staff are on edge, and that's creating unwellness in the workplace. And when there's unwellness in the workplace culture suffers and takes a hit. I'll speak a little bit more about that a little later around challenges. We're developing a better communication strategies thanks to the work led by Kristen here, training staff. We have a new website platform that we're doing some work on. And I think we've done a lot of proactive work around communicating that will be helpful over time. And the biggest thing around the school operations department is aligning the work to be more in alignment with the staff that exists there. And we're needing to rely more on contracted services now than before. We currently have a vacancy now we can't fill, and the work needs to be done. So we're having to go to plan B and C. Staff recruitment and retention. So there was what I shared in 2024, talking about reconfirming our hiring practices, getting ahead of the game with regard to getting ads out. And when we go to recruitment fairs in March, we can actually interview people and give them jobs on the spot, getting ahead of the competition. However, I'll share with you in a moment that that's not a fail-safe piece as well, because there was a time when you verbally said yes to a job, and it was you could take it to the bank. That's no longer valid at all. And in fact, you can sign a contract and there's no guarantee. So I'm saying that I think we're fully staffed or close. We're off by one, and maybe, and we're close to having that one filled. And that's a miracle, by the way. I'm so pleased with that. However, we won't know until the day school opens as to whether or not everybody's showing up.
It's a miracle.
Over the last couple, it's amazing that we were able to get there with all of the stuff that's going on and challenges. And that's credit to our HR department and our principals who've done a lot of great work. But it's not uncommon for school to start, and you thought you were having 2 new staff members, and only one showed up, and nobody has heard from them. So that's where we are. So recruitment, I'll just say, I'm very happy with the division level recruitment. I'm also very happy with the other part of succession planning, getting principals and vice principals into school-based leadership roles to build their leadership capacity to one day perhaps apply for an assistant superintendent's job and be in them. So both of our assistant superintendents here now are coming from school principal positions. So we want to continue to build that internal capacity. We had great stability this year. We hired a vice principal for E.E. Oliver because a vice principal came to division level office, and we obviously hired the principal and promoted the vice principal at Alternative Education. And
Manning as well.
Yes, and Manning. Yes, we have Manning Elementary. We had 2 vice principals step down, and we have a former vice principal of Manning Elementary moving into the role there, which is fantastic. So very, very good stability. I'm very happy about that. Challenges, the cost of recruitment is huge. People now are, when they come, they're only willing to come if there's a relocation allowance of some sort. That was not in play years ago. That's huge. The advertising platforms are significant. As I said here, we had 16 and counting jobs that we offered to people that they accepted. 12 or 13 of those not only accepted, but the contract was sent out to them. I signed it and sent it off to them. They signed it and sent it back. And some of those were done in April, May, June. And while I was on leave on vacation time in July, every day it seemed there was another one that came in, an email from the person saying, I'm sorry, I can't come because of a family matter or because of some other matter. In many of these instances, that was code for saying, I found another job somewhere else. And we had 4 people, I think, who verbally accepted the contract upon them being interviewed and reference checks. We sent out the contract to be signed, and they never ever signed it. We've never heard from them since. That was unheard of in the past, but all school jurisdictions are finding that now, and it's tough. The other thing I'll say is this, no disrespect to the people we've hired, but the overall quality of the people we're hiring is not what it used to be. And the reason for that is this. Now, we've hired, so I'm clear here, we've hired some fantastic people. We're really happy about that. But some of the people we've hired probably wouldn't have been shortlisted for an interview 5 years ago. And that's common throughout the land. And so therefore what happens is this, we either have a lot of work to do to grow somebody into being a really solid educator, or we do a lot of work to say, you're not cut out for education, and then we're suspending the contract. We're not giving them, they're on a 2-year probation, and we don't renew the contract. A lot of HR work that goes into that. There have been significant legal matters. You're aware of some of them, and they have been consequential in several different ways. They've put people on edge. They cost a lot of money. There's legal costs and so on. And we've had a lot of people returning from medical leave or going on medical leave and sudden vacancies that we had to spring into action to do. So there's been, I've got a report here that I can share a little later. I think it might be in the agenda but we've had a very substantial number of jobs to be filled through. Threats moving forward. What priorities? Evelyn Crowe is staying on for part-time next year to shift corporate knowledge to Hayden, so we don't lose that. And that's really critical in all positions, but particularly in HR because it's so technically, there's so many technical requirements. And if you screw up, you could make a $100,000 decision, mistake just like that.
And it's changing on the fly.
Changing on the fly. We have, we're going to be filling positions with quality staff. That's a priority, but it's still a challenge. I've already talked about the threat to hiring high quality people, the demands from parents and increasing legal costs. I mentioned that already. We have a serious bus shortage throughout the organization. There are currently 4 positions not filled, and many bus drivers are about to retire, and there's nobody lining up. That's a really significant worry for us. And we have ongoing challenges in the skilled trades right now. So recruitment and retention challenge is big, and this is the time for municipalities to step up in a good kind of way to say, hey, we can help you help welcome teachers and other employees to our communities and create places where they want to stay. So instead, once they get in and get settled away, gee, I think I'll stay for 3 or 4 years versus wanting to go back to Macomb or to the Duke or Edmonton or whatever. Succession planning. Below, I talked about trying to hire a superintendent and where that went. So I'll just quickly go to the where we were. I believe we completed 2 successful years with a reduced, altered administrative team with people in part-time positions. I was very, very happy with the work that Alina did and the work that Evelyn did in part-time roles. They did fantastic work, oftentimes work way beyond what they were being paid for. But that speaks to the quality of people that they are. And you feel badly about, you don't want to be in a situation of being perceived as using them. So I used to always say to them, hey, you know what, be mindful of the work that you're being paid for, but they've generated great work on behalf of the organization. As I said, we were very successful with our school administrator positions and we're very stable there. That's going to be helpful for transitioning into leadership positions. We filled our 2 assistant superintendent positions after pivoting from the plan of finding a new deputy. And that was a setback here or a challenge. I make a note there that we weren't able to do that. But I'm very happy with the team that we have. And the other challenge that we have moving forward is significant stress. Now, but administrators are under significant stress. And I would say division level people are under significant stress. The number of situations that were extremely elevated over the last year or so is substantially more than 5 or 6 years combined. People feel free to come to our office and just vet some people left, right, center. We had a meeting there last spring with 2 assistant superintendents, and the people got up and walked out. And then later, I had to have a meeting with them, with the deputy superintendent. I had to say straight up, here's where this is, and you need to make other choices if you feel we failed so miserably. And we haven't heard from them since. So hopefully, we're not going to end up their children have a good year this year. Priorities moving forward: broad-based capacity building amongst team members. We're doing that work with our principals throughout. And we're trying to create more streamlined processes in all areas of our operations so that the required work from Alberta Education will be easier to be done. I'm just glad that there's not so much red tape to navigate through because it makes it a little easier than it otherwise would have been. Board governance. I talked about how I could support the board in being excellent governors so that you would support me and my team to be hopefully excellent administrators. So a couple of things. We've done very substantial work. It's not yet complete, but it's near completed. We've done a massive overhaul of our administrative procedures in alignment with government legislation bill 25 and a number of other bills, equity in sports and so on, and the library books and so on, and with PRSD policies. I think the culture of the meetings at this board table has shifted significantly over the last little while. That's a credit to you and the work that you do and how you're focused on the governance piece. I think the onboarding of new trustees was smooth. There's more work to be done and more orientation to be done, and we can make improvements there, but I was very happy with how that unfolded. I think the support for the admin team, with support from the mid team, I think the board executed policy 15 in an exemplary kind of way. I've talked about that a lot, and that's an example that we can continue to go back to around the role of governance and operations. It worked really, really well. And I want to continue to work with the board to improve its advocacy efforts, and I think you've done a good work with that, and you're doing further work. Challenges is continuing to maintain the separation between governance and operations through deep familiarity with board policies and government legislation. So one of the things I would say I can continue to help you with is to make sure that every one of you is intimately familiar with all of your policies, so that when you do the review, you know what needs to change. Effective advocacy is really good, and how do you advocate with a government in its various cycles? A government that's just elected, or a government that's on the end of the election period. How you advocate at the beginning of a term for government is very different than at the end. And when do you bring in the opposition? When you do that, if you do that, when you do that, the strategy around that as well. Challenges ahead. I'll just switch to those. I would say the biggest challenge and one of the biggest threats to us right now, to the board and superintendent relationship, is Bill 25 and its implications. I'll share a little more about that a little later. But the reality of it is that right now the superintendents have two bosses: the ministry and the board. A little later, I'll share that in more detail. We're moving into an extremely interesting period in Alberta education, and I think that the board needs to be fully aware of that. We'll get to it. Other geopolitical considerations, including public attitude towards education, that's taking a huge toll on how we do work, and funding model. If our funding model doesn't change, and if our student enrollment continues to drop, and if our small rural schools continue to be even more underutilized, this board is going to be faced with a monumental task in the very near future. And Mr. Chair, I'm about to wrap up here. Just a quick summary of the challenges, the geopolitical challenges, the impact of Bill 25, and how boards work with superintendents. And what does it mean when a superintendent has to challenge a board and say, no, you can't do that, because if you do that, I'm going to be under pressure from government and say, why the heck did you let the board do that? That's a very new reality. And I'll share more details a little later in another setting. Parental and public support for education has eroded substantially. The climate is such that people feel that it's open season for educators and the education system, I believe. This has actually impacted student attendance rates for staff, teacher morale, student morale, workplace culture, overall health and well-being, leave usage, and student achievement. You can cut it and slice and dice it any way you want. The culture and climate right now is an extremely abrasive one, and the morale of staff is as low as I've seen it in my 41-year career. But we remain positive, and we're going to work really hard to try to get to a different place. Financial challenges, I've already talked about. The funding model just doesn't work for school jurisdictions our size. We have significant concerns with underutilized schools in Napa and in the west end of our division, and this is going to cripple this organization if the enrollments continue the way they were and if the funding model doesn't shift. The school operations, I've already talked about that. We have challenges in recruiting skilled tradespeople. We have a workload issue right now with the very skilled staff that we have. 5, I think, is it, workers. A plumber, an electrician, and 2 other workers and 1 casual, not counting Troy and Karen. So 5 people were
4 people.
4.
We're short 1 plumber.
That's
so
right.
One of those is casual.
That's right. So 4 people, where there used to be 11 or 12 people once upon a time. So we're really lean. Staffing, I've already talked about. We're going to need to look at vet in a very significant kind of way, and we'll likely have to revamp vet, falls, and prop moving forward. And we will certainly brief you on that as we move forward. But this is being done, by the way, because of staffing. We can't sustain, say, 200 teachers when our numbers and our formula on our money says we only need to have 180. That's the issue. Where the rub is, we can't sustain the staffing levels the way that it's currently deployed. And recruitment and retention, I've already spoken to this. This is going to remain a major challenge. The cost to recruit is much more expensive. The cost of retention is also expensive. But, we're poised for the task. I think, I believe, I know, and with your support, I think we will continue to provide good operational services. I just want to say to the board, thank you for the governance work that you do to make my work a lot easier. And I think together we will continue to help ensure success for all. And especially those that show up and put their shoulder into it, we can guarantee that they will do well. The others, we have to work a little harder to try to get the success. That's it for me.
Thank you, Superintendent Thompson. Any questions? I know we asked questions as we were going along. Trustee Lauren?
So I'm just wondering about Falls, VEP and Peace River Outreach. Do they come and present to us on their programs? Like, do we have any interaction with them?
No, they haven't, not in the time I've been here. Again, probably the main reason for that is that it's, purely operational piece. And so when we talk about that, we would bring from a management level perspective the matters to the board that, by way of update, hey, here's what we're doing. Here are some of the challenges and so on, but we've never gotten into principles coming to the board table.
Oh, okay. I'm not thinking about principals. I'm thinking about their boards. Like, do their boards ever interact with us?
Yeah, they're for it.
They do operationally. So so we would have the Peace Outreach Society meet with us, talk about
Okay.
their
And
project.
so we'll never hear from them. Or could we hear from them? Could we have a board to board?
They have come in here and talked about,
That's the parent council, so that would be. Like councils, school councils.
Yeah. It would be like,
Oh, I thought Peace Outreach had a board.
they do. I sit on.
Oh,
there's
The
a,
fundraising.
that's a fundraising board, yeah. And, yeah, and they've written grants in the past to help provide, augment the programs we provide. So I wouldn't see, as I said here, Mr. Chair, I wouldn't see a pathway forward where it would be appropriate for them to actually come to this board for conversations. It would be more around coming to us and say, hey, we've got $50,000 that we'd like to leverage, and can you hire a social worker?
but that'd be to you
Yeah.
guys. That'd be not to us.
But they have come in here and presented financial information to us.
Not
They
to-
did just last year.
Yeah, not to the board,
Not
right?
the entire.
Not to the board, there was a small.
There's been a trustee at a meeting, every once in a while.
But
But,
get the terms of reference.
but yeah,
Yeah, we did terms of reference that we were.
Yeah,
And there was some legal matters way back 2 years ago where
Yeah.
we had Yvonne Prefontaine weigh in, and at that time, I think the board was there and some of their representatives were here.
Mhm.
That was a special meeting because they were operating with other terms of reference and were actually doing things that ran counter to what they should be doing. So Yvonne had to sort of lay out the legal rationale for that, subsequent to which they pivoted and did some things.
Sounds like there's gonna be some more conversations in around those coming forward. Any more questions? Just, as a bit of an update, we've also put into the policy committee met with Superintendent Thompson and Secretary Treasurer Freeman on this past, Tuesday to go over the annual work plan, the board's annual work plan. And we put, an updated, Superintendent Thompson is gonna give an update to this in February. So this is where he's seen us going, in February. What are we doing along that road? Okay, so there will be an update.
And Mr. Chair, I can give you, like, if people want printed copies of this, I can certainly provide that. I didn't print it now in the event that people didn't want it, but if somebody wants to have it for later digestion, I can do two things. I can give you this one, plus the December document that I shared with some board members at that time as I was moving into this role. And then any feedback that you have for next February or next year this time, certainly that can be taken in if you don't like the format, if you prefer it done in a different way. This was my initial stab at it. And frankly, I didn't get at it until yesterday. I thank team members for sending key pieces of information to me so that I could make sure that the stuff I put in was accurate. Is it what I would absolutely want to have? No, I can see adjustments I would make myself, but I'm wide open to your suggestions as well, since this is a report to you. And so it needs to be, address your needs as well.
Can you just email it to us?
I can absolutely email it to you.
That'd be great.
I can email both to you if you'll see it in the parallel pieces. I'll get that done later today.
If we're done with 5.1, how much time would you need for 5.2, Superintendent Thompson? Dixonville property update.
Oh, so that should be very quick. So,
We might be able to get a couple.
yeah, we might be able to hit up on a couple of this, Chair. So, I'm just gonna add, for expediency, I'm gonna
Just because this is now a request of the board of the superintendent to report, can we have a motion to accept this for information?
oh, the report, yes, my report.
Trustee Dick, all in favor? 6 of us?
So, Mr. Chair, to expedite this, I'm just gonna turn it right over to Rhonda, so she'll give the essential details for the Dixonville property and where it is right now.
Sure. I actually just received a phone call from our legal representation, which I used a local lawyer to help with the sale of the Dixonville property, and both properties are now finished and gone through. Not sure if land titles is done on the second part, but the money has been transferred for both properties. It was $1 for the second property, so there will be some legal fees that we incurred, but that's complete now. So that's really great news because that's been a year and a bit in the making. So I'm really happy to report on that. And the Red Earth Creek project. So we are currently the same kind of team. Superintendent, myself, John Travilsky is working on this with this project as well. And Shane sits in on the meetings for the construction. So we're working through right now the proposal that's going to go to tender for a bid, or a design build contractor for the Red Earth Creek School, with the hope that construction will start in March, if possible, of next year.
2 years delayed.
So are they thinking that they'll get a lower bid by doing it that way? Is that the?
That's the hope. This is a pilot project, so it's a bit different than the normal design build project that they've done in the past. And there's 3 schools currently working under this. I think our school and one other school is at about the same place in the process, and then the 3rd school is a little bit behind us.
So there's going to be another conversation later in camera on bidders, but I think that's a good update now. So basically the school is going to be 2 years behind schedule in all likelihood, assuming that it all goes well from here. I just want to go back to the Dixonville one, Mr. Chair, for a moment, if I could, because I want to highlight, Rhonda mentioned that, this is all grouped up now and it's ended very well for us. But if you want another example of the power of a board, and when you execute your powers in alignment with your policies, what can happen? Just recall how that all unfolded. The land was never going to be transferred over. That second piece, we wanted it transferred over, as did the charter school, and then through some strategic letter writing to the ministry, with decisions that would be made in a timely fashion if you didn't hear back at a certain time. At the 11th hour, things unfolded, and it moved in a different direction that it would not likely ever have moved in if you hadn't acted in that kind of way. So I just wanted to, take a moment to just give you an exemplar of the kind of work when you do it through motions and letter writing, that it does, and it has been, and will continue to be effective.
5.4 is that a long?
I can do that one really quick as well, if you would like me to.
Yeah, you go ahead. I mean, just go ahead.
So the Industry Advancement Grant is from the Ministry of Transportation, and we have had success in recruiting and hiring some positions. We hired the program coordinator for that program, who will be starting with us. Unfortunately, a bit of a delay, and she won't be able to start with us until October, but we're excited for that piece. We have the admin position that is also had a bit of a challenge in recruiting, but we do have a person starting with us on Monday to start getting things together for that. The 2 driving simulators are here, they're installed, they're up and running. So we are currently working to try and do some tests and get material ready, so that when the coordinator is here, we can work on the courses and materials and stuff like that. So we're making some great advancements on that front.
That, simulators, are one of those gonna be mobile?
Yes, one of them is, the smaller one is mobile and it will be moved from around the division to all the different schools.
Do you have any questions on that?
And we're also partnering with, just a minute, Mr. Chairman, could say, this, we're partnering with Northern Lakes College as well. There's a grand opening, I think, Monday coming in there.
I think it's Tuesday.
Tuesday, okay, 25th, is it, in the afternoon? Yeah, well, anyway.
The ladies that come in.
Yeah.
will know them.
So, they have a portable welding shop, a really small one, not like the bigger one that they have. And they expressed great interest in partnering with us so that when we mobilize to, say, take a simulator out to the West End schools in Worsley for a few days, and Seattle for a few days, they would like to be in a spot where they take their welding equipment as well. And so the whole idea there is that kids have an opportunity to mess around with this, and if they put in 4 or 5 hours or a certain number of hours, they'll get what we call micro credential, and perhaps 5 micro credentials equates to a credit, that kind of thing, CTS credit. So we're going to be toying with that a little bit, and I think there's some excitement there for sure.
So to gain experience on the simulator, do you also have to be 18 years old? Okay, so you can start that in senior high?
Yeah, so really we're looking junior high. Probably we'll focus a little bit more in the beginning, I think, with grade 9 and 10 students, but once we have our coordinator in place, we'll have all of those pathways identified and how that's going to be offered to students.
So is that the new position that you sent out to us that was hired for dual credit, et cetera, et cetera? Is that the position?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had Jackie, I forget her last name now,
Jacqueline Coates.
Jacqueline Coates. She used to teach with us once upon a time.
She lives in Fairview.
Yeah, she used to be in Hines Creek, and then she went to Spirit River, and she applied late in the year. And we hired her, but her current board, because they are in difficulty staff-wise, exercised their management option to, they told her to require her to stay for 30 days from the beginning of the year, and to give them more time to try to find somebody. So that's why she won't be coming here until October month.
So funding for that comes through the grant for that.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's an important point, Mr. Chair, because sometimes you might hear in the schools that staffing is being cut, yet they just hired a new program coordinator for the divisional office, and they hired an administrator. Yes, that's through specialized grants. So we've been very clear with our administrators around that to say, hey, we recognize that on the surface, you might think that we've been growing. Well, on the one hand, we're not. And that document I shared with you, with all of you and them a while back, shows that we're way down in staff compared to where it used to be even 6 or 7 years ago. But when we're putting announcements out about new staff, you can understand why people think that, well, they're going in one direction and we're going in the other. These are grant driven. And the point I'd make as well, that the school success facilitators in schools right now, they wouldn't be there if it wasn't for a grant. So people get them and then they forget the fact that, oh yeah, we have some extra EAs, a complexity team, all grant driven, and when the grant disappears, those positions feel off.
So if there's nothing urgent right now, I would suggest we just take a real quick, fill up your coffee, watch your break while our guests commit. Is somebody going to help them set up here? Thank you. To provide Albertans with an opportunity to invest collectively in community-focused real estate and help create spaces to attract and support entrepreneurs, innovators, and growing businesses. Since 2021, Tegan has also worked extensively with Lubicon Lake Band on infrastructure, housing, economic development, and community projects. This experience has deepened her commitment to meaningful partnership with First Nations and to creating opportunities to build local capacity and long-term community prosperity. In her role with the Fairview Regional Campus Society, Tegan is focused on bringing these experiences together, connecting education, industry, agriculture, entrepreneurship, and communities to create new opportunities and strong, sustainable future for Fairview and the broader region. Ms. Peggy Johnson moved to Fairview in 1974 from a ranch in southern Alberta. She's been actively involved with Fairview College and the agriculture and community sectors for more than 50 years. In 74 to 76, she was a student in the animal health technology. And 76 to 2001, she was an instructor in the animal health technology program at Fairview College. 01 to 06, coordinator for the Green Certificate program with the Fairview College League. 2006 to 25, casual employee with the GPRC and NWP, providing support to the animal health technology program as needed. Peggy has served in a variety of leadership and volunteer roles in both her professional and community life. 2012 to 21, elected councilor for the municipal district of Fairview, serving until October 21. 2017 to 21, as she was agreed with the municipal district of Fairview, served on numerous boards and committees over the years, including agricultural organization, community services group, workplace committee, and municipal boards. She was chair of NWP Fairview Advisory Committee until October of 2025. Active member of the Fairview Regional College Transition Committee, now the Fairview Regional Campus Society. Connection to Fairview College. Peggy is passionate about the future of the Fairview College campus. Her connection to the campus spans many years as a student, instructor, community leader, and member of the Fairview Regional Campus Society. She is committed to supporting the campus and helping ensure it continues to be an important part of the Fairview and surrounding areas. Thank you very much for coming, and welcome to both of you. I'm David Rush, I'm the trustee for Ward 6, which is Fairview and rural Fairview.
Oh, sorry. I'm Lacey Vichinsky, and I am trustee for Ward 3, which is Manning, Dixonville.
Jeff Thompson, superintendent.
Improvement Secretary Treasurer, Chris Warren, Executive Assistant.
Kristen Dyke, Communications.
Edith Giesbrecht, trustee from Ward 7, which is Cleardale, Worsley, and Ice Creek.
Dick, I'm trustee for Nampa, Red Earth, and Lower West Peace area.
Wanda Warren, Peace River Ward 2.
Janet Shadowski, Ward 5. Am I Ward 5? Okay. Ward 5.
Cheryl Gascon, Assistant Superintendent.
Aiden Best, assistant superintendent.
The floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you very much for having us here today. It's the big deadline for the lands and the buildings to transfer back to the government occurred on the 14th of August, which is last week. So it's an exciting era now for us officially to be on the campus and to be starting our road towards stewardship of the Fairview campus. So we're excited to be here. This is our first official presentation outside of the town hall that occurred back in July, but you're the first ones to meet with us post August 14th. So this is exciting for us. Go to the next slide. So this is obviously the campus that we're here to talk about. Next slide. So what we did was we took the PowerPoint presentation from our town hall in July, and we updated it just to reflect the current date and give an update from the March 2026, what was occurring. We kind of went quiet during that time because there was a lot of work occurring behind the scenes, a lot of negotiations, a lot of meetings, obviously, with advanced education and Northern Lakes coming in as the first post-secondary provider on the campus. And then obviously a lot of work working with Northwestern Polytech on their exit and what kind of assets were being left behind and stuff. So we'll do a bit of discussion on the progress since March 2026, what the transition looks like, vision and mission and values. So we, as a new society, met at the end of July and created our new vision, mission, and values. A bit of background on the FRCS board of directors. We call ourselves the transition board because we're setting up the new society, which will have an AGM and bylaws and everything in the near future. So we're setting all of that governance up right now. We talked a little bit about what success looks like from our perspective, and then get into partnerships. And that's where I think, and I tried to create some information that would be of interest to yourselves of how the work that we're doing on the campus could integrate with the work that you're doing as a school division. And then we'll open up for questions. So to the next slide. So since the March 2026 town hall, we established the FRCS. Obviously that takes legal work and accounting work to do. We created the new society in June. and we're currently governed by an interim board of 14 directors. A stewardship transition plan was created in partnership with the government of Alberta and Advanced Education to create a phased transition and have us assume the stewardship role by May 2027. So currently, Northern Lakes is the stewards of the campus because they have all of the governance structures in place and infrastructure to take over a campus of that size. And then come May 2027, that stewardship role will transfer over to us, and then they will essentially be a tenant on the property. Next slide. So this is just an overview of the major events and milestones that occurred since the announcement on October 29th that the campus was shutting down. So, you know, come the 14th, like I mentioned, that occurred last Friday. Northern Lakes has now assumed their interim stewardship role, which will last till approximately May 2027. If we can get all of our governance structures in place prior to that, then the transition can happen earlier. And then after, on or before May 2027, the Fairview Regional Campus Society will assume the long-term stewardship role of the campus and buildings. So during this transition, the government retains ownership, and that'll be long-term. So Alberta Infrastructure is now the owner of the land and buildings, and that transfer occurred on Friday. Like I said, Northern Lakes College is the interim stewardship until May 2027. That was to allow programming continuity because Northern Lakes, obviously they're busy getting ready to run programs starting in a few weeks here in September 2026. And then, yeah, from September onwards till May, they will be managing the facilities. Meanwhile, we're working on building out our governance and operational capacity. So we need to create our bylaws. We need to, you know, do skills matrix of what the board members look like. We're looking at creating an advisory committee. So there's a long list of items that we've met with the government on of things that need to be in place before we're ready to become stewards. We need to create a bunch of processes and procedures, build out our operational capacity. We'll be hiring an executive director. We hired our first, I don't want to call them, they're not, basically our first contractor to manage the farm because we immediately took over stewardship of the farm animals as of Friday. So we now have a full-time farm manager that is running the farm for us. And then risk management systems will need to be in place in order to be stewards of the property. Next slide. So as of August 15th, we assumed ownership of the following assets: the farm animals, the farm equipment, the power engineering lab equipment, the vet tech equipment, all of the campus artwork, and an egg program simulator. The egg program simulator is really interesting. It was a simulator bought specifically for the egg programs at Fairview, but it actually, it's only about 2 years old, and depending on the modules you buy, you can simulate pretty much anything. So healthcare programs, flight simulators, heavy duty equipment. It's got quite a wide range of programs that it can run. Currently, the only program it was set up for was the egg program, but we are excited to deploy it in other areas of learning.
And the funds came from Fairview College endowment. Is that correct?
Yes, it was an endowment that was specific for, I think it was the turf program. Yeah,
so that the funds came from Fairview's campus.
Yeah.
Are you still doing the turf program?
No, it's been gone since we were with Nate so before 2009.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's been gone since, I would say 2000, maybe 2008.
Yeah, giving up autonomy is never a good idea.
You guys have done well. You've come a long ways in a year and a half
Thank you,
time. Oh my
It's not a year and a half yet. It was only October.
It's been 10 months. These
Oh,
guys,
it's
yeah.
not even a year?
Not even a year.
No.
I'm trying
October
to
29th
do the
coming
math
up.
when you're talking.
Yeah, these guys are my heroes.
Yeah, yeah. I know how much work it is to set up a society. I've been there, done that a couple of times, but you're doing very well for that short a timeline.
Thank you.
On your simulator, when we toured Fort Vermilion there, they have several simulators up there in their, their big shop there. It's all set up and whatnot.
Yeah.
And they were saying that if you contact companies, often they will donate those.
Yes.
To you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or get the program sponsored, because each module has,
Yeah.
there's some
Yeah.
cost to each one, yeah.
Yeah.
No, they're good for that free training before you actually put someone on
Yes.
like an expensive piece of
Yeah,
machinery.
$100,000 or $1 million.
Yeah.
$1 million
equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Can I also ask, so with your farming, is the greenhouse still active? Is there some education going around the greenhouse?
So right now we're working through the details of so right now Northern Lakes has the head lease and we're a subtenant of them until May 2027. And it does look like the plant sciences building is going to be added to our list of buildings because we have a bunch of equipment in there. And they're not intending to run programs out of there. The greenhouses, like from the last 5 years I've seen of them, they were being used for storage by NWP for the heavy duty equipment. So I haven't seen them in actual operations. All the hydroponics is there. All the fans and ventilation systems are there, but whether they're operational, those are things that we have to figure out. So we're the first order of business was to do inventory. So that's actually what we're working on this week is confirming inventories of all of this equipment. We did start tours last week, but we have all these equipment lists and we need to like make sure the right quantities and the right pieces of equipment are identified. And then, finalizing these agreements with Northern Lakes and then figuring out what programs, like what equipment is actually functional and can be utilized right now, what equipment needs repairs, because there's a bunch of lawn ornaments, I call them, equipment that's been handed over, but just needed maybe a little bit of repairs, but there was no approval or dollars allocated to do those repairs. So they just considered not operable at this time. So we're working through all of that right now. And then that will tell us what programming we can introduce here in fall. And in discussions like this, what interest is there with the K-12 school divisions for what kind of programming are you interested in? So.
With that Boreal facility there by the Northern Lakes College there, would that be interested in expanding over there?
I don't know. Yeah, like
forestry.
Northern Lakes has said to us they're not interested in the ag programs. So yeah,
But that's the Boreal forest.
Yeah, they may.
yeah.
Because their building isn't all that terribly big, so you guys feel lots of room on there.
Yeah.
And lots of greenhouses there, which is basically what they're running.
Yeah,
Just a small one.
right.
And the bikers want their program back.
Yes.
Have you heard from them?
The motorcycle program is running this fall and it is already full.
But
not Harley.
But not Harley.
Not Harley. Oh my
Well,
gosh.
it's quite interesting because Harley, there were changes coming anyway because there weren't as many Harleys being sold and, like the whole big picture of their organization had changed, so.
Okay.
But there's certainly potential for continuing education courses,
Yeah.
the 60-year-old guy that buys his first Harley and those kind of things. So,
Yeah.
That won't be us.
No,
That would be Northern Lakes at this time. They're the tradespeople.
Okay, we'll do the next slide. So Advanced Education has created a website specifically for the Fairview campus transition. So it's
really good.
yes, yeah, they put a lot of information on that site and a lot of frequently asked questions, or they've attempted to answer a lot of the questions from the region through that website. So when we have a website up and running, which will be shortly, we'll be pointing to their website for all of that information. So I recommend, if you're interested, to go take a look at what they posted there. So,
You're happy with it?
yes, we got a chance to review the content before it was posted, and we thought it was a good, accurate description of what's been going on, and felt that it took the weight off of our shoulders to try to explain to the region what the government's intent is and what they're doing. And they really did solidify through our stewardship role, which we really appreciated, because there was a lot of questions, in the earlier part of the year around what does stewardship mean and what will our role look like. So that was clarified through a lot of that information, which I thought was great. So. Okay, we'll go to the next slide.
Is your, facility going to be able to, support the education program? Like, teachers?
Oh, like to train teachers?
Yeah, to educate teachers. If someone wants to be a teacher, can they go there, or do they have to go to Grand Prairie for that?
Yeah, right now it's Grand Prairie.
Yeah.
So I don't think Northern Lakes is offering any programs currently. Now, they've said like they're starting small just to get up and going, but they do have big expansion plans over the next 3 years. They have to prove a market for it to advance education. So every time they're submitting approval for a new program, they have to do the market research and determine what the demand is for that program. But the minister has said if there's demand, and you can build up capacity, then we'll look at new programs for sure.
Because I know Portland Land is doing their own teachers and nursing staff.
Yes.
I don't know if it's an LPN program, but
Yes.
So doing their own
Yes.
to try to get local people that will teach here and
Yeah.
stay and nurse here, and stay.
Yes, and I've had several discussions with Mike McMahon about the Fort Vermilion program and how he got that going. And it is very much driven in a way more from the school division, from his side, than it is the post-secondaries. He created partnerships with the post-secondaries that allowed him to do that training in place and not have the students leave and go. And because when they leave the north, it's hard to get them back up. So it would be fantastic if there was an interest from a school division to model something after what he's created, because it's very different than dual credit. And I think a little, talking with Northern Lakes and talking with other post-secondaries, they automatically think it's like dual credit, but it's actually quite different. And he calls it the collegiate model. And he starts the training right in elementary. Like you get exposed from K to 6 of these 12 different streams, very light exposure. Obviously they're not, getting into detailed technical education around it, but they've developed 12 streams. They get exposed to it from K to 6. From 7 to 9, they actually get more hands-on learning related to those 12 streams. And then from grades 10 to 12, I think they have to select 2 streams. So they have to decide to specialize. And they get a lot more technical hands-on learning, and he shortened the school year too. So they go to school from September to April, and then from April till June is their practicums. So that's where they're getting those hands-on, I think it's like 6 weeks of hands-on technical learning in the field. So they're not even in the classroom. And they're done, I think the first or second week of June. So they actually get almost 3 months in the summer off.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different schedule for the teaching staff.
It's almost a European model.
It is, yeah. But he says everyone's loving it so far. That was his description of it to me. And the reason why I was talking to him about it originally was my work with Lubicon Lake Band.
Yeah.
They're looking at different models for their education in community. So yeah, what he said was the teachers get that. I think it's about 2.5 months to 3 months off for their summer holidays. But it does make the September to April maybe a little bit more intense. I don't know how they make up those teaching hours. So, and then the kids love being out of the classroom by April. So they're out on equipment, like physically on equipment, or out in the field learning the technical side and getting their hands dirty, or whatever program it is they're in. Even if it's nursing and stuff, they're actually like in the labs and stuff. They're not at the desk anymore.
Do they have an academic stream as well?
Yes. Yeah, it's incredible what they're offering there.
You're saying Northern Lights.
No,
No, for
Vermillion.
St. Fort Vermillion.
Fort Vermillion.
they're the rich school division, right?
Well, they offer a lot, yeah, I don't know how they have it.
Lots
Their
of grant
finance, but-
money. They're building houses, so they're building houses. and
Oh,
selling
yes,
houses.
they are, yes,
Yeah.
we were up there not that long ago.
They're roasting coffee beans.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
have a clothing company, like
Yeah.
it's incredible. I think they had 11 revenue generating streams off of the businesses that they've created out of this collegiate model,
well, La Crete has grown to be as big as Fisher.
right?
I
Yeah.
can remember going up there when I first met my husband. Oh, not even 50, 60 homes at the Crete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge.
Okay, so we came together as a board and worked through what our vision and mission and value statements are. We feel they're really simple, but we feel strongly about them because they really speak to our vision and mission for those campus facilities. So our vision is a vibrant and welcoming campus where everyone belongs, learns, and thrives. Next slide. Our mission is to steward and grow the Fairview Regional Campus by providing exceptional learning opportunities, fostering innovation, building partnerships, and creating sustainable prosperity. Our values, excellence. We strive for the highest quality programming, partnerships, and outcomes. We are committed to providing exceptional opportunities and setting a standard that sets us apart from others. Community, we cultivate a welcoming environment where everyone belongs. We believe every decision should strengthen the region, reflect local needs, and support the people who make our campus thrive. Collaboration, we bring together education, industry, government organizations, and Indigenous communities. By leaving egos behind and building authentic partnerships, we achieve more collectively than we could alone. Innovation, we encourage new ideas, embrace change, and creatively solve real-world challenges. We continuously adapt to meet the changing needs of students, staff, industry, and the future. Integrity and transparency, we lead with honesty and accountability in all that we do. We are committed to open communication, thorough reporting, and making decisions in a way that welcomes community input. Finally, stewardship. We responsibly manage, protect, and grow the campus assets and resources to ensure sustainable opportunities for future generations. And yeah, that was a photo of what Fairview campus used to look like about 20 years ago. So we
Can you go back to it? Yeah.
put it up there. It's doesn't look this way today, but this is when
We're
we
gonna
say,
get back there.
yeah, when we say we're
Yeah.
gonna be good stewards of the land and buildings, this is what we're striving for.
And as soon as we gave up our autonomy, that all changed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, next slide. So this is the current transition board of directors. And they've
Chief
been,
Billy Jewell on there.
yes, yeah. So we've developed a relationship and partnership with Treaty 8. They are forming, yes, yeah. So Chief Billy Joe being chief of
Yeah.
Lubicon Lake Band and all the work that I've been doing with himself, council, and all their partners for Lubicon. When this opportunity came out with Fairview, we met with Grand Chief Trevor McCready and realized that there was a big amount of alignment in the strategic location of the campus and all of the education work and strategies that they're trying to implement. So we've established a strong partnership with Treaty 8. Chief Billy Joe is the representative for Treaty 8 currently.
Yeah.
They're creating Treaty 8 Polytechnic, so a new polytechnic that they're establishing, and they're looking to have learning facilities on our campus and us creating synergies between the campus and then the communities in Treaty 8.
What a great idea.
And they're particularly interested in agriculture
Oh, okay.
and being, right?
Yes.
And being
yes.
being able to self-support and feed themselves and et cetera, sustainable farming and all that kind of thing.
Because I was gonna ask you, Clifford Gladue, who worked for Kate Task,
Yeah.
has gotten his food inspector license.
Oh,
And so those kids are doing land camps and
Yeah.
he can also get hunters to go out and harvest and then they can use it in their food programs. And I'm just like, man, I mean, that would be very helpful for all Indigenous nations.
yes.
Anyway, so, I mean, if you guys are an agricultural college, then it could be abattoir, food inspection, like that. I mean,
Talked about that.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Cause there is a lack of that up here.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
Yeah. Big time.
anyway, okay, thank you.
Yes, no, we think there could be lots of synergies and also like creating transportation shuttles between the campus in Fairview and then the land-based learning opportunities that they're having on the cultural campus stuff out at Little Buffalo, and then learning about the other communities as well. They're all starting to develop out those types of.
And Duncan's is integrated with that?
They will be through the Treaty 8 Polytechnic,
yeah.
yes, yeah. Yeah, so, and yeah, we want to, like, learning in community is just as important to them as it is for our rural communities as well. Like they didn't want their students to have to leave. Or if they are leaving, they want them to go to a safe environment that's,
It's not a city.
yes,
Not a
essentially
city.
not a city, yeah. And that it took several meetings, I shouldn't say several, but it took some meetings with advanced education for them to understand why just sending kids to Edmonton, and Nate and like, well, those schools are great and they, through scale, can optimize the learning environments. It is difficult for northern students to thrive in a densely populated area. So it was a lot of advocacy from Chief Billy Joe and Chief McCready to say, like, we want our students to be in a more rural setting that's not quite so overwhelming. So
And we have the accommodations, like housing.
yes, yeah. So they're even looking at maybe building a Treaty 8 residence in Fairview and investing in infrastructure.
I believe in Edmonton, they have a huge facility. I think it's really women only facility. If you want to go to learn to, be a carpenter or welder or whatever, and you're coming in from the north where, I know a lot from Northwest Territories and whatnot, used to come down to that facility and it was the schooling and everything was all in one building. You bring your children with you. They had daycares. It was a huge facility and it was wonderfully set up. And a lot of students.
Okay, it still exists.
Yeah, as far as I know. Yeah, it's in the city of Edmonton. I don't even know where, but I just remember a presentation brought to us when I was in council about that. Yeah. It was ladies only, women only.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all female. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a great facility. I was gonna ask you, are you guys bringing back the power engineering or do you know if that's coming in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we did get the equipment from the power engineering lab. Again, we have to assess it and determine what's it gonna take to make it operable again. We have a private group in Fairview that's offering the power engineering level 4.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They just do online testing and online education. They're interested in partnering with us on the lab, because then they can offer, like, just have people come in and spend a week or 2 weeks doing hands-on learning and maybe expanding their offering. Northern Lakes, also, like, our agreement with Northern Lakes is first right of refusal. So if there's equipment that they want access to for their programs, by all means, we'll be partnering with them on that. But if they decide it's not a priority for them for this campus, then we'll be going to outside partners.
They need to do. They need to bring that program back.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Okay, all right, next slide. So what does success look like? So for us, financial independence, the model is going to be, we're essentially a landlord of buildings and assets, and we're going to be filling those buildings with education providers. Post-secondaries will be kind of, I think, our key main tenants. But the unique model here is it's not just one post-secondary provider that controls the whole campus. And that's typically the model that has existed to date here. So it's been stewarded by one education provider. So what's unique to us is that if one provider wants to scale down their programs or scale down their footprint, we can bring in other post-secondaries and have multiple post-secondaries delivering different programs that they're specialized in from the same campus. So, and there's no limit. It's really just the space that limits us, but we also have lots of acres of land, so we can build additional buildings. So that's the first tier, is the actual public post-secondaries that will be coming in and paying rent and helping us keep all the lights on and pay for the expenses. But then also there's industry specific partnerships that we can be working on, where we're creating industry specific private educational opportunities and programs. There's entrepreneurial pieces to this as well, like what kind of incubators and businesses could we be creating on the campus that actually have revenue generating opportunities, such as you look at the farm operations, which will be providing farm animals and learning opportunities for the egg programs, and the vets, the future animal health tech program. But then also we could create a butcher shop and be selling meat
Yes.
and creating revenues and stuff from that. So that's just one example of probably hundreds of revenue generating opportunities we could create.
And international programs, right? We used to
Yes,
have
yeah.
international partnerships with the beekeeping people and,
Yeah.
and so, I mean, that's really exciting as well.
Yeah.
In Peoria and.
International cooking classes.
Yes, yeah, and we've talked about, you've got your public accredited courses, you got your private accredited courses, and then you have continuing education classes that aren't about any particular accreditations. It's just us as adults want to learn more about X topic. Can we create an evening or weekend opportunity for those adults to come and continue their education?
Red Seal, yeah.
Yeah. So we were able to offer full programs and the residences piece. So there's existing residences there. Some of them are in operation. Some of them need repairs and maintenance to become operable. And then there's also, like I mentioned, opportunity to build new residences. Growing enrollments. So we know the numbers historically and previously, and we want to not only get back to where they were in the early 2000s, which I think was the peak, but we want to far exceed that. We really want to focus on strong partnerships. We believe, when you're in the north and you're spread out, that partnerships are what make you resilient. And we think that we can really position this campus as the campus for the north, where we're training for the needs of the north. And because we're looking at different financial independence models, we can be less tethered to decisions by government or what the government's priorities are, and really focus on what are our regional priorities here. And then a destination campus, we do want to create programs that are internationally known. There's no point in trying to compete just on numbers with like a NAIT or a SAIT or like larger universities. We need to create unique programs that this is the only place that it's offered in the world, because there is unique industries here. And we've had that in the past. We've been a destination campus in the past, so we think we can get back there.
That's what we were 20 years ago.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So currently we're establishing, like I said, the Treaty 8-1 has been established. We do have discussions happening with different industries, post-secondary institutions. So Northern Lakes is the first one. There's a second one that should be announced in the next month. And then there'll be others layered in as those first two kind of get established. The K-12 education partners like yourself, community organizations, and then obviously municipalities and government. They've been heavily engaged since the announcement of October 29th. We've got letters of support from every municipality, all the way from here to the borders, BC and NWT. And we plan to keep them engaged long term. So
Can't get back those Clydesdale horses yet.
yeah,
They were purchased.
Oh, okay.
So this is the part of the presentation that might be more interest to yourself. So looking at building stronger education pathways in the Peace region, what if we looked at the Fairview campus as an extension of the K-12 education experience? So instead of having specialized labs in each of your schools, bringing students to the campus and providing in-person training and lab exposure to what we actually have on the campus. So it could become a hub for the K-12 education experience. Creating those access to hands-on learning and specialized facilities, and then long-term partnerships that benefit students and teachers. So right, you know, for instance, right away this fall, just farm tours, just exposure to what a farm looks like. We have animals, we have sheep, we have cattle. I don't know if we'll have horses.
I think the horses, she's been bringing one
They're
for a while, but I
bringing
could
home,
always
yeah.
take one in if you need one.
For a day. Yeah.
So Tegan, the biggest obstacle to that I see that we all need to advocate for is, and the reason I think they originally wanted to put the campus, like, put all of our schools on campus, remember that?
Oh, yeah,
Is that busing is a big barrier,
right. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if we could find a way to advocate to the government.
Yeah.
We want to bus our students for these opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's something we can definitely look at. And getting sponsorship from industries and
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, just let them know, we're not a city, we don't have city buses.
Yeah,
And you do it for the schools, why not?
Yeah.
Kids and cities have the opportunity to ride a bus, but they don't have it up here, so.
right, yeah. So yeah, looking at a regional education pathway, like a more exploration model, similar to what they're doing in Fort Vermilion, in grades 7 to 9. And I think it actually can occur even earlier in the K-6 grades as well. And just exposure to the campus. When kids get familiar with the campus, prior to graduating and having to choose, if they like what they see and it's familiar to them, they're more likely to choose that campus for post-graduation. Getting hands-on learning and experience in those grades 10 to 12, so they become more technically knowledgeable. Earning the dual credits and recognized learning. I know Northern Lakes is already talking with your school divisions around dual credits. Having those post-secondary pathways, and then local and regional careers. So what could we build together? So just, you know, putting these different ideas into categories. We have student opportunities, we have teacher opportunities. We talked about like it being a center for conferences and professional education in the north. Shared facilities, so that's where we can share lab space and hands-on learning space. Career connections, providing mentorship, connecting students with employers. Innovation and projects, so we can do actually applied research projects on the campus and entrepreneurship pathways. And then community and indigenous partnerships, so really developing those strong partnerships throughout the community and throughout the region. So we really, through all of our visioning and mission statement conversations, you know, we spent, you know, each board member filled out a, I don't know how many page questionnaire to try to bring out of their brains all of the thoughts and ideas they had for the campus with all the conversations we've been having, to really try to think about what are all the strategies we should be looking at. And we spent several hours talking through this, and what kept coming to mind is this being a real world learning laboratory. So you get like actually trained on the current day technologies and the current needs of the industry, and focusing on that and less about letters after your name and all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, hands-on learning to us was really important aspect of the future of the campus. With us assuming stewardship of the farm animals, farm equipment, power engineering lab, vet tech equipment, and ag programs, we can create those hands-on learning experiences literally right away. And these assets create opportunities for students to learn by doing, not just observing. Agriculture and environment, like I said, with what we've gained access to in the last week here, we can look at livestock, farm operations, environmental projects, agriculture, technology, and applied science. And then around the trade, science, and careers, that's obviously more going to be Northern Lakes piece, but because we're going to be the stewards of the campus, we can help facilitate those relationships and those partnerships going forward. And providing, like again, our conversations with the post-secondaries like Northern Lakes is you provide the core programs, but if there's additional supplementary programs or continuing ed, that's where we can come in and help support you in implementing that.
So things like spraying with drones,
Yes, yeah,
that's becoming a real thing.
yeah,
A lot of farmers turn into that technology now.
yeah. And then what we're seeing with the post-secondaries is for them to get approval for programs, it can take 2 years of a process, and market research and putting the business case together for implementing that program and then getting the funding approved. So it's quite a lengthy process, whereas we can, because we're not operating under that umbrella, if there's a need in the community, in the industry, and we can go use those other flexible funding streams and avenues, we could get a program up and going faster.
Oh, really?
And maybe as a test for that public post-secondary partner to determine, is there actually a demand? We could start smaller and build and test that demand, and then they could use that as their case for why they should get public funding dollars for that. That's the next slide. So just timelines here. So this first year is really just an exploratory phase. Identify 2 to 3 immediate opportunities, bring educators together, map out the facilities, programs and resources, and pilot 1 or 2 student experiences. Then when we get into 2027, 2028, we can actually expand dual credit opportunities with our post-secondary partners, develop recurring youth programming, create teacher professional learning opportunities, develop formal partnership frameworks. And then beyond 2028, that's really where we're in the higher growth trajectory, regional career pathways, joint programming, shared facilities, applied learning, long-term K-12 post-secondary collaboration. So this is now time for discussion. So this is just some ideas of areas to explore in 2026 with your school division. And it's really questions that we have of you, and you don't have to answer them today, but just questions we wanted to pose for you to ponder and think about in the coming months. It's, you know, where are your biggest gaps and opportunities in career exposure and hands-on learning? Which campus facilities or resources could be useful to your schools? Where could dual credit or shared programming be expanded? What opportunities exist for teachers, students, and local employers to connect? And what is one partnership we could realistically pilot this year? So we'll leave those questions with yourselves to ponder.
Framing and carpentry.
And Tegan, we've talked about Fairview campus as a wonderful theater facility, like the arts are. We used to have a very vibrant arts community.
Yeah.
It's lacking in our schools.
Yeah.
It's lacking in our community.
Yeah.
And so our kids aren't getting exposed.
Yeah.
So I think I know we've had Alberta Ballet and Alberta Opera have done productions that I've been at, like to make those available to our schools.
Yeah.
And to bring those people in.
Yeah.
That would just be amazing and serve a real need.
Yes. Yeah.
We've talked about that,
Yes,
bringing the
yeah,
arts
yeah.
back to Fairview.
Mhm.
Before, yeah.
Is that the end of your presentation?
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
I'm just gonna suggest that we break for lunch and then we can continue the questions during
Sure.
lunch break in
Okay.
the interest of us. Are you guys okay with coming back at 1 o'clock?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break for lunch now then. And we'll go grab lunch, come back in, and we sit over there for lunch and we'll continue the questions from there. If that's okay. I'm sure where to go from there.
Call the meeting back to order.
Yeah. Call the meeting back to order at 3:01. Do we have any motions?
Coming out of camera, yes, I have a motion, that we approve the unexecuted draft superintendent employment contract as presented, noting that it complies with the band 2 salary caps and regional allowance provisions of the superintendent of schools regulation.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? 6 of us in favor. Good, moving on back to the agenda. I believe the next thing was 5.5, Superintendent Thompson.
That's the update on staffing, correct?
Yes,
Yes,
that's
because I'm looking at earlier. Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll start and I'll ask Hayden to weigh in on a couple of pieces of this as well. So we've had a very busy year with staffing as we have, as we usually do, and just as busy again this year with lots of other complexities. So I do have a document here showing all the movement of staff over time. And as you know, if a teacher resigns in Grimshaw, we might have a teacher from Worsley who wants to transfer into Grimshaw, and then a teacher from Cleardale who wants to transfer into Worsley, and eventually we're advertising the position in Cleardale after 3 or 4 moves. So there's lots of volume of movements over time. But we've had 19 job offers for new or rehired teachers, 8 transfers, 4 returns from leaves. In August, we've had 4 resignations in August, if not 5.
Yeah.
Which is really late because we're supposed to know by the end of May what people's intentions are. So we're creeping up more and more and more. When I came here 10 years ago, if there was a resignation in July month, people would say, holy smokes, July month, like I'm wondering if we're even going to approve it. Now it's extending right up until perhaps we might get a resignation next week, one day before the school opens. That's some of the challenges we're finding. We have 4 administrative appointments at the school level, plus Hayden was appointed, so that's 5 administrative appointments. We earlier talked about program coordinator position for collegiate school programming and so on. That was an appointment, and she's coming on board a little later. We've had a number of leaves that we know about, and thing about this business now, we could have other leaves in the offing. In fact, I understand that I know for good reason, there's a teacher who just informed our HR department that he can't start at the beginning of the school year. So at school, we had to scramble to try to find somebody to fill in for a short period of time because of the medical clearance piece, very legitimate issue that people find themselves in from time to time. So it's certainly a very busy portfolio. Hayden, anything else you want to add by way of updates? Anything else that's percolating? Maybe to share with the board where we right now. If everybody shows up and said they're going to show up, where we will be on opening day.
Opening day, right now we've only got 1 position still open officially. Still hoping to hear back to see if that's going to be accepted today or not. Do you want me to discuss the meeting from yesterday and those positions that have opened up? Sure. After some funding from the government, we've also we got 2 little pots of money. The first being for class size reduction. That's allowed us to put out 3 job ads for 3 teachers. 1 in Grimshaw, 1 in Manning, 1 in Fairview, specifically targeted. So in Grimshaw and in Manning, a teacher teaching somewhere in the range of K to 9. Fairview would be 7 to 12 or 7 to 9, sorry. So in that age range or grade range. We've also got more complexity funding. And with that funding, we can hire 1 more teacher and 1 more EA. And right now the plan is to put that job out for Peace River with that complexity teacher splitting time, hopefully between TA and receptive side. Other changes, like Jeff said, we've got a few leaves of absences already. We had 4 resignations come up here in August, and we're hoping that all positions will show up on Thursday.
Thank you. And you might ask the question around, what obligations and what the leverage do we have to hold people to their contracts? If we do, we can say that they must, we only keep them on contract for the first 30 days of the year. In other words, preventing them from going to the other school jurisdiction. We do that sometimes, but that doesn't have the same teeth doesn't have the teeth that you would want it to have necessarily. If somebody's going to leave here and go to Nova Scotia or even Southern Alberta, they're going, unless the other school jurisdiction is respectful and said, well, if you don't get clearance from your other school board, we're not hiring you, then we can say that and they can just leave anyway. But we just said earlier that we do have a teacher that we've hired for here who can't start until October 1st or late September. That's because the other board said, can't release you until, and we respected that. So yeah, we understand that, and it's all good. And thanks for that, Aiden, sharing the new jobs, because you might hear tell of the fact that, I thought you said the positions were all filled, and yet there's 3 or 4 more positions advertised. These are new about the job, and we're hoping to find applicants and other people ready, if not for the start of the year, as early as possible. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions on that? And move on to 5.6, and I'll speak about that just a little bit. I'm not sure if the new trustees are aware, but over the years, department heads like the transportation manager and manager of technology services or director of learning services would come to the board meetings once throughout the year and do like a 20-minute or a half-hour presentation, take questions. And in the end, they were joining for lunch. Last year, the board decided that maybe that was getting just a little bit old because everybody was coming in and people were scrambling to kind of come up with some new materials to present to the board. Now that we have new trustees on board, we talked about it last a week ago Tuesday when we were setting up our agenda. Maybe that's something we want to look at again, or maybe change the criteria around a little bit and say, next month we want to do something specific because we're interested in talking about like maybe school operations or maybe it's learning services or something along those lines, right? I've been at the table from both sides. I did presentations year after year, and I did get to be event owners. Did the same thing pretty much every year. Shared the information, celebrated our successes, and then put forth to the board the challenges that we were facing going forward. So the question is to this board, do we want to look at doing departmental presentations again? And if so, what does that look like? Is it, we set out a schedule that this department's doing it, and then that department, and that department, and that department. So it's just, we haven't done it for a while, so we're putting it out there right now to see, if there's any appetite for that. Does the board have a keen interest in that, or do we carry on and not doing it? We can always bring it up anytime we want to. Right? So open for discussion. If you want to start, Trustee Shabilsky.
Right now, I don't have an opinion, but it might be a discussion worth having on a board planning day.
Okay.
Being a new trustee, I would like to have a presentation by this department.
Yeah, I'm good. I was good with doing it. I kind of feel that maybe one a year or whatever. I can't remember how often they used to come in.
Well, when I was doing it back then, it was every month, and then
Yeah.
as soon as it locked into the fall, I made sure that I didn't have until April or March, so I could get right. But that's when it was scheduled up for all of the departments, and it was pretty much every month. And it's usually happens at 11:30 and goes up until lunchtime, and then the department would join us for lunch, and we carry on talking about things.
Was it not? Did it not used to be tied to budgets? Like departments would come in and present their budget proposals?
Not.
Yeah. Anyway, I'd be good with once a year, update.
Trustee Giesbert?
Yeah, I think they were helpful when we did them when I was a trustee. I don't know if I would recommend it every meeting. Just our meetings did get quite long too, right? So just do it in here separate times, so that's another thing. You wouldn't wanna make the meetings too long, but I did find them helpful.
Trustee Kaczynski?
Yeah, I liked them at first, but then as the years went on, they start to be repetitive. I know when we kind of took them off the agenda, it was like, well, like if something new or if they want to come in, like any department that has something really exciting or they're having a struggle that they want to come talk to the board about, or whatever. I think the invitation was always open to come back, just not to do the same, like.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it. If I was a new trustee, I'm fine if we do them. It's just personally, I also find not doing.
I'm almost wondering if
Could we dedicate a day to it?
what's that, sorry?
Could we dedicate one day rather than tying up every board meeting, just have a day of just solid departmental presentations?
To me, it wasn't that cumbersome, a half hour. And I'm wondering what would happen if we send out a communication to the department heads to just find out what their take is on this, right? That the board is keen on hearing from people and being updated on what's going on and, what are their thoughts on it? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think, we went from having to do them every year, and I was like chair involved in doing them. So we did the learning services, myself, Alita, teamed up, and then when the leader wasn't there, I carried on doing them, and every year you try to find something slightly different. And there was always a little bit of different that you could add, and then when the board decided to pause, everybody thought it was a real good idea. So it's probably likewise not a half bad idea to reinstate some of that, particularly for the new trustees, because it's actually a good way for further orientation, because it's a little bit of a different slice and a deeper dive into the inner workings of the department, if you will, the struggles and so on. So plus we have new people at the table. So Hayden is new, Cheryl is new, Shane is in a new department. And so we have new players who could perhaps bring something slightly different than if it was me still doing learning services. So I think there's a win-win there. One thing I could do certainly is reach out to the team and say, hey, the board is interested in having presentations again. I think I heard Trustee Eastbrook say maybe not every month, but staggered. And the half-hour piece came up. Then there was the like doing them all in one day piece came up. There's various ways to do it, but I would say that from the point of view of workflow and minimal operational impact, if we schedule them, perhaps just to throw this out there, every second month, if we said, okay, who are the departments that work for the team? So there's HR, then we have learning services, that's 2, we have school operations, 3, transportation is 4, business services is 5, and then we have the communications piece. And I would suggest that perhaps the communications person could tag team with one or more of the other departments, especially. So for example, a big piece of work being done with the bus cards for sign on and sign off. Well, Kristen might be available to be that regard. So I could, on your behalf, reach out to team members and say, hey, the board is interested in doing some presentations, and we come back with a plan. If you're going to say like before a half hour, 20, we said rule of thumb, 20 minutes of presenting, 10 minutes for conversation. Sometimes, of course, we went over a little bit, and sometimes not. And actually doing it by department would actually narrow it down a nice little bit, because if you recall, we used to have more departments. We've merged technology and facilities and maintenance into one. We also used to have an Indigenous education session. Well, what I would suggest is that Indigenous education might be a part of Cheryl's session to the board. She does a little piece on that. She's got a couple of ideas as to how we can actually wrap that up a bit more. Plus, Cheryl will be doing a presentation later on this year once we get our achievement data as well. So I can certainly move that piece through and be ready to report back to the next board meeting. How's that?
That'd be perfect. 5.8.
Oh, yeah, that's our rural health professions action plan. So anyway, what I did was I got the agenda for that. I had asked for, they'd asked if we could send a couple of people to a couple of trustees to the meeting there to bring back information for our board here. So the theme is rooted in community. It's strong communities that help support healthcare, welcome the providers, and create lasting partnership that strengthen our rural areas. I have a niece that is the regional manager for Northern Alberta, and this is the first time in her years there that she now has 4 psychologists in place.
Right.
And so one of the things they wanted to know from the school division, why they wanted school divisions to come and to send somebody there, is they wanted to know what we require within our schools when it concerns mental health and even other types of health that we feel is needed with the students. And anyway, so I thought that probably 2 trustees should attend that conference. I think I sent an email out a while ago. And so anyway, that's about all I have to say about it. But I do know that it's been held at the Chateau Nova in Peace River, October 6th to the 8th. There's a couple of days of that. So I don't know, I had the thought that maybe, you, David, and, another trustee, I don't care who it is or whatever, could attend that if possible or whatever, and bring back information to us on what they're working towards there.
Yeah, so
But work also with staff here to find out what our needs will be within the school to take there to, and communicate that to them.
yeah, when I first got the email, I realized that it was a long time out and I didn't worry about it. And you wanted to put on the agenda, and thank God, at least you remembered it. And we got it on the agenda, then I spent a little more time looking at it. I guess for myself going, because I don't know, and it's not limited to governors. It could be anybody from our organization to go to that. I'm wondering if it would be more pertinent to have someone the busy time of the year, October, whatever that is, the first part of October.
16.
If somebody from our staff that actually knows.
Yeah, learning services would
That's
be
what
the
I was
obvious
thinking.
choice.
If somebody that
That's
knows
right.
how many psychologists or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, then they could come and they could let us know that this is good or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I would, I mean, I don't mind going there and just getting the information, but I would be, as a resource for the division, I'd be way outside of where I'm at. Yeah, from a staff perspective, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Mr. Chair, and we could certainly so Amanda Bliska spends a lot of her time partnering with Alberta Health Services through mental health and capacity building. And we have the MCHPD and a number of other initiatives, so either Amanda and or Cheryl would be two obvious choices for us. And if there's anything coming out of that as governance overtones, then we can bring back a report to the next meeting and say, hey, you know, what we heard was that on the health side, they're doing this from a governance perspective. That might not be a half bad idea for us to consider, or it's an opportunity, depending on who's there, to build further relationships with Alberta Health Services personnel that we can then have inroads in if we're trying to get a connection for a child who's struggling with mental health issues, to call somebody up and they can put us in a better direction to facilitate programming and so on.
I'm fine with whoever's gonna go, as long as somebody goes representing. Be sure.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah. It's fine.
So I'll ask Cheryl, would you follow up with Amanda on that and just we'll get further details and see what the agenda brings forward and see what that speaks to us.
There is a conference fee. I think we've missed the deadline there, the great deadline, but there's still a conference.
It's
fee.
$300 after the deadline. So
Yeah, could be.
it was $250 or $225 before the deadline and $300 after the deadline. So
Yeah.
In looking at it at a glance, it's mostly keynotes and information. I don't know if that there's a lot of opportunity to dialogue and to share your needs. It looks like I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get information on generational, what one of the sessions is, importance of rural exposure. Like, so two doctors are gonna stand up and give their perspectives, but it's not gonna be a chance to
Interact in that kind of way.
I mean, there's networking events in the evening, and to me, that looks like where, like the social events, that looks like it might be the part, but like there's a trauma training panel, like, well, that's.
Yeah.
But I will share with Amanda, we'll see if there
Yeah,
could
there's
be
an
a
opportunity there,
potential.
yeah.
But just at a glance, that's my initial take.
So normally when they have, for all the conferences I've been in, most of them that I've been to, when you have a speaker, have speakers hired to come there or whatever, and they do their presentation, there's usually a question and answer period time allotted afterwards for the audience to go up there and ask questions.
Right.
And there definitely would be with this too, because this is geared toward hearing what your needs are up here.
it's perfect.
So we'll follow up. I'm sure.
Okay, so we're scooting all the way down now to 6.2, policy development. First policy on the agenda is policy 10. Hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to take a look at it.
I need it.
Okay.
I wish I had more time to look at it. I feel like there's some missing pieces maybe. but I looked at it, I printed Mondays to look at, and then I didn't have a lot of time to look at the new
You and I and Paul were the one, the
one.
three people that did this.
And I don't think it's where it needs to be first. But I don't have specifics that this.
Well, because when I was going through it, I just thought, I'm happy with how you guys, how the policy says that you will strike committee or how the superintendent will do APs. So I mean, I'm just a newbie at it. I just thought it made a lot of sense and that, like, I would not have anything to say or change it.
What were you thinking, Lacey, that needs to be added?
Well, just trying, that's the thing. I haven't had time to compare the original to the, because we're going from 5 pages to 2.
You wanna just,
Because there's no, like, there's not, where, in the new one, where does it talk about APs? Was like the first thing that.
Oh, gracious. Well, so I was looking at the old.
You were looking at, yeah, see, and that's the thing.
Oh, wow.
This
This is like, so I figured, oh, I'll get ahead of David here. I'll just open up the staff portal and go to policy 10. But now I'm seeing this is like really different,
Yeah, it's amended. What?
like stripped down. So yeah, like how do we, is our APs developed? Is it talked about in some other policy?
If they could end up having
Yeah, it doesn't.
I may have steered Chris wrong on this one again.
I just felt like, I was like, there's just, I feel like there's stuff missing, but without actually getting a highlighter out and having them printed, I didn't really, sink my teeth into it.
Why don't we defer it to our next board meeting?
What's up, sorry?
Should we defer it to our next board meeting?
The policy committee's gonna have to sit down with it again, but yeah, we sure can.
Okay, because yeah, I can sink my teeth into it if you want, but no. right now.
No, I have so many
Oh,
open
these
in there
other-
that it's, yeah. Okay, we can do that.
Do we have to make a
I
motion?
would feel more comfortable.
Do we have to make a motion or we're just?
Yeah.
No,
we have to make a motion if we're gonna defer it to our next meeting.
okay, yeah. Sure.
Yeah, just a motion to send it back to the policy committee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make that one.
All in favor? Let's see. Yeah, we were 6 in. Policy 2, Appendix A, the board annual work plan. I wasn't sure whether all of the appendix that we work on have to be, if we make changes in the appendix, if they have to be brought to a board meeting and sent out to everybody and then sent back and go first, second, or third reading.
What's it say in the policy meeting?
Yeah. Talk about appendix. Now we have to add that.
Yeah. So APs
I had
and
to.
appendix. So we need to add APs and appendices.
I don't think it ever said anything.
No, it never said anything about the appendix.
No, but it probably should, so we're not, just don't know. Because that's the thing, anytime I read a policy, I try and just pretend that, well, sometimes I am not intelligent, but that I don't know anything about anything and it doesn't make sense. And so it probably doesn't hurt to add something.
Okay, and we can do that, when we go back to the drawing board. with
It's such a
policy.
slippery slope.
Yeah, I was under the assumption for some reason that when you changed an appendix, you didn't necessarily have to go through the first, second, and third reading, but that would not be correct, I don't think.
That's how they operated, because
Yeah,
that would be like
usually
a,
it would be amended by a motion of the board, but it wasn't three readings.
Right. Yeah, I remember there was a policy appendix around, remember the board remuneration and some other pieces, and you went through it and then motion of the board and it was approved. So that's the way you did it, and that's the whole point that Vice Chair just made, is that wouldn't be a bad idea to put that in the policy making piece so it's clear to whoever comes forward. Like, there could be a time when there's all brand new trustees, not likely, but there could be. One of the first things they'll want to do is go through their policy making policy and just see what that says. So it'd be a good idea to put that in there. Mr. Chair, the other thing that you talked about, I mean, this was tidied up fairly significantly. The quarterly review board's areas of emphasis. There was a conversation I think you were having around, well, what do you want entailed in that? One of the things was, you know, is that where advocacy goals or advocacy plan is going to be developed and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
So just to remind you of the conversation you guys were having around that might need to be a bit more defined as you move forward, right?
Yes. No, for sure. I mean, a lot of that will relate back to the policy too that we went through the other day as well, right?
Yes.
I guess just to leave this one with the board to kind of peruse at your leisure. What we're hoping in the future is that we will have this annual work plan and things that are going to happen in a specific month every year will be there. So if you're going to miss a board meeting in October, you'll be able to look ahead and see the kind of things that you're missing.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I'll just say this, that's a really good idea. And we do something similar for our school administrators, year at a glance. So they go in and, so a brand new administrator comes on board. What do I need to do? I'd be concerned about in August. What about September, October, November? So it lays the year out according to significant things that are to be done. Some of it is meeting deadlines. And as if you look at this document, there's one area around being able to hire Friends of Education alert, right? So it's a really good document, and it will serve a good purpose with you. Always for sure. And the one area we just did, the superintendent's report, well, that was my first attempt at doing that aligned with this new annual work plan. So.
The other thing is that the policy committee spent the last half of the day on Tuesday going through policy 15, the
school viability.
Yeah, school viability, and we see no need to make any changes. All. So is that something that we can just change the date on at the bottom and say it's been updated in 2026? Or, I mean, obviously the rest of the board would have to go through the policy and agree, and we can put that on the September agenda. And then you can have a chance to read through it if you haven't had the opportunity already. But that should not have to be sent out for second and third reading.
So, Mr. Chair, that, as you know, that policy was updated subsequent to the process around NAPA back, I think, Adam's first year superintendent. Having gone through that process with NAPA, then what became obvious was that policy needed a fair amount of work, and the board put a lot of time into updating that policy. And it, from before to after, like the one now, it is well written and clear overall, and worked extremely well in the Dixonville process.
No, it was well done.
Yeah, that's right.
No, it was well done. The only other thing is we did go through policy 2, the role of the board. Trustee Shabelski had mentioned, I think it was at our June meeting, I think it was our May meeting, that there's a lot of things in our policy that we say we're going to do and we don't. And for the most of the part, that happens in policy 2, the role of the board. And so we went through that as a policy committee and just highlighted some of the things that we used to do but don't do. And coming out of that, when you look at the role of the board, we can go back to the policy. There's two things. You can go back to the policy and say, we don't do that, so take it out. Or you can go back to the policy and say, we don't do that, so let's start doing it now. So yesterday I didn't spend more than a couple hours going through other school divisions just to see. I went through Canadian Rockies, I went through Rocky View, and I went through Ivory School Division. So 3 different school divisions to see what their policy 2 looks like. And there's a lot like all over the map There's some stuff that's similar, but some is a long ways apart, right? So what I was thinking was I'd really like to spend some time seeing if we could get some outside help on policy too. And not spend any money right now, but just see if there's a consultant out there and trying to figure out what the price would be to sit down, because I think policy too, the role of the board, it was kind of like our job description. It's how we operate this. It's the things that we do. And we want to make sure that everything that we're doing in policy too is stuff that fits within our role. And I'd like to find out, if we can do something for a few dollars and have someone come in and sit with us for a day or so and work through that and say, this is where you should be going. If it's too costly, I mean, I'd bring the cost back to the board. If it's too costly, then we might have to look at doing something else. But I was hoping today, just to throw that out there and have the blessing from the board to kind of move forward with that, study some more policies. And there's consultants that work for the ASBA and the PSBA both that would probably be able to help us with that. So just give some thought on that. Any thoughts on that, Trustee Shabowski? I'm sorry for starting at that end.
That's okay. I absolutely agree, because we are not following our policies. So we either change them or we start following them. So if they need to be adjusted and amended, if they're appropriate or inappropriate, we need to do something about it. One way or the other.
Agreed.
Because you did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm for seeing what we can do about that.
I feel like our current policy making that we're following right now says we can delegate such things to the superintendent. Sorry, Jeff. Is that something we delegate to our superintendent to bring back before we discuss the meeting? You have an opinion on that?
Well, I was going to say,
Because 1.2 says the board delegates to the superintendent.
so I'll just make a couple of comments. I was going to say before that comment, when we came here, I was going to say, one thing we could do just as an initial piece is to reach back out to ASBA to ask them to go back to their repository, because a lot of this stuff initially came from the ASBA. When we moved to the GTEC model, that model of governance that came into being in 2015, 14, somewhere around there, that stripped all of the policies down to a small number, 20 or less, and then the rest of it was administrative procedures. They did a lot of grunt work on that, and since then they've sent updates. So there's going to be an update coming out very shortly from them, as I understand it, that factors in Bill 25. So one of the things we might get ahead of is that you get that, and then you look at that one and say, back to Trustee Shabelski's comment, say, okay, what are the things in here that we don't do? And to your point, should we do it or take it out of there? So we can certainly do that. And the other thing is, certainly if the board decided through its committee or through the board that they wanted the staff to go and do some of that research and bring back, there are 3 different options. We can certainly do that, taking a policy at a time. So whatever you people feel is best and how we can help you, we'll certainly dedicate some time to do that, including tracking changes or whatever you feel is great. And it would empower the committee, not take away from the committee, but empower the committee to come back to the board table with well fleshed out documents that you feel comfortable with and go from there. So whatever you guys feel that we can be of assistance, we will certainly devote some time to it. Sure.
I can definitely reach out to the ASBA and look for their role of the board policy that was everybody used at one point in time, right? See how that compares to ours. But I would like to talk to some people, just see like what are our options. My personal preference would be to have someone from outside, as long as we're not, we're talking $1 million. I'd like to be able to just walk down that road and see what that would cost us. That's okay.
Yeah, but I know Shelley has worked for a long time in policy development and whatnot, so she'd be really good and be able to give some good advice on that.
Well, she's not one of their consultants. I mean, she's a.
No, she's not a consultant.
But there are lots of them there, and it doesn't cost anything to talk to them, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We need a motion to that?
I'm not sure.
I don't think you're not spending any money.
Yeah, we're just,
Not to start it, basically, the board's just.
Exploratory.
Probably.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, I say if the board, if through that conversation, it looks like there's going to be, you know, a significant amount of work that's going to cost $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000, then I'd say, hey, you know what, if we can be of any assistance to save $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000, we certainly don't mind doing that. We'll jump in and do some pieces of work. And I say we because it wouldn't be me, it would be, you know, the team here who on a regular basis do that work. We've just gone through a major piece of work on APs. We're not finished yet, but some of the team members have a really good system in place now to quickly do a search of other school jurisdictions using artificial intelligence. That is really, really helpful. And it, you know, work that would have taken days to do in the past can be done literally in 1/10 of the time. It's not absolutely perfect, but it gives a real good sense as to, you take a draft and say, hey, what are the hot spots here in relation to being in compliance with Bill 25? It comes out and says, hey, you need to change this clause, that clause, and something else. What would you suggest? There it is. You got it, boom, done.
So will this affect, I've done a deep dive on education plans throughout the province. Would this, will Bill 25 affect our education plan?
Mr. Chair, it is quite possible. It will actually, because they're identifying new strategic priorities from educational childcare perspective. And then the requirement is for school boards to be aligned. So there probably will be, likely will be some tweaking that will be required for most school divisions and education. But we won't know that until a little later in the year.
let's get back to the discussion on policy too. Since I've been here, I haven't really understood it. I haven't understood my function, as a trustee. Like when I go to a job, I normally have a job description that tells me that these are the things. And then I know if I'm being successful because I've met those targets, right? And in most of the policy twos that I'm looking at, there's something that along the same lines as what ours is talking about, that the board is to monitor their priorities, their desired outcomes and their key performance indicators, right? And I'm not sure what those are. So as a part of this policy too, that's one of the things that we would have to say. I want to know whether I'm winning or losing, right? As a trustee, I want to know whether the effort I'm putting in is where it's supposed to be going. And I think policy two is what drives that. This is the role of the board. And if we don't have things in there that need to be in there, then we have to find that out. And if we have things in there that don't belong to the meeting, and when we start being a trustee in October of an election year, you know, within a few months, we know that here it is. Here's your key performance indicators. In 6 months from now, you'll know that we're kind of getting close to what we should be doing or the things we should be working on. And I think it was Canadian Rockies had a couple of good things in there. So I'm going to take what everybody said, not spending any money, and I'm going to do a little bit of exploring. So we're now on to, we're all the way down the trustee calendar.
No, policy 8, it's not.
Oh, that's standing committees. We did those earlier.
Okay,
That's just referencing policy.
okay.
We're at trustee calendar. Calendar for August. Wow.
Yeah. What a great month.
Yeah, so we do have,
July was way more fun.
we do have more schools to visit, right? That-
More what, sorry?
More schools to visit in this fall sometime and.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, we talked about, we were going to arrange, the board was going to consider arranging a meeting, one of its regular meetings in Manning. So we visit the school there and also get an opportunity to go to Breaking Point, or to arrange a tour there. And then there were the West End schools, the Fairview schools. And then we talked about Bear Canyon and Cleardale as another visit. And
Well, you can almost go, if you had left here or wherever, zip right up to Bear Canyon, cut Cleardale all the way back, lunched in Fairview, and cut the two schools in Fairview. Make a day of it, then you're done, right?
you could, you probably, if everything went well, you could do that, sure. And then what would be left would be, the Mannings and Breaking Point, so.
We're hoping to, sorry, Jeff, but we're hoping to have a board meeting in Manning.
That was just
One
my-
of our bridges.
that was just my random idea. We don't.
No, I think it's a great idea.
No, that's.
Well,
If Tim can accommodate it.
It does two things at the one time. Yeah, you probably have an abbreviated, a shorter meeting that day to allow for the trip to
Yeah.
Breaking Point. You probably go to your meeting in Manning perhaps, do the tour. When your meeting is done, you go and visit, Breaking Point, subsequent to which, when you get back to the highway, you head on back, just as one way to do it.
I was just thinking before the snow flies, right?
Oh,
You
absolutely.
probably want to do
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
That's either going to, probably November would be as late as you'd want to go. Maybe even October.
Yeah, I would say October.
Yeah.
And if we can't
November
do
is
it,
a really significant meeting.
Yeah.
November is a really heavy meeting. So there's a lot of
Probably
stuff.
October might be the best one.
I mean, has anybody, can they accommodate that or the interest in talk?
Yeah, we can arrange to, have a conversation with her and, so, Mr. Chair, would we be possibly looking at the October meeting then in that area?
Yes, I mean, and it does have to be a short meeting.
Or meeting?
How does everybody feel about that? Like we wouldn't be coming
I
to
love
the
it.
meeting here? Travel.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we can do the same thing in Fairview, right?
Well, would we travel together, like in a school division vehicle, like meet here
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
we
travel
can
to
do that. Yeah, we
Vancouver?
coordinate travel, yeah.
Okay.
Would September be better? I'm just trying to think, is there like results in October?
It's possible that the results could be in October, so September might even be a better, meeting.
Yeah, October's-
Yeah, yeah.
September is even better.
Yeah,
And if-
fine by me.
Pardon me?
Fine by me.
And if we can't do it, we can't do it.
No, I think Mr. Chair, I'll reach out to, Kim, later today or tomorrow, and, we'll have an answer to that fairly quickly.
Yeah,
We
because
probably would-
September is super busy for them, right?
We probably wouldn't be able to record there, right? Or we just have to be live online, right?
Yeah, I think we should be able to manage that. Yeah.
That might be a technology thing there, so.
So, Lacey, ASBA is having a session on the 25th of this month. And it's a advocacy session with legal counsel. Are you able to attend that?
Oh, just one of their like,
Online?
yeah.
My intentions are of joining that one that thing back in time to tell
Oh,
where the
okay.
service was.
I just wanted to make sure somebody attends it or whatever, that you can just give us a report back.
It's a lot on the referendum, I think, right?
Oh, is it? Yeah. I'll check that out.
Are they closing schools for the referendum?
A lot of.
Pardon me?
Are they closing schools for the referendum?
I think they're using some. for
Yeah,
forms.
some of them are doing for voting.
Did you guys all send in for a mail-in ballot?
No, I bought my membership in the first one.
Well, it was just, they said, like, they're going to be seriously short of workers. And so it would be insane to go to a polling station. It's gonna be crazy busy. So they said, get your mail-in ballot.
So you just go online and just ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they also say, do you qualify for a remote? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And somebody from Panoka said, he just said yes, and they sent it to him. So even if it says, even if you don't think you're remote, do it, because we're more remote than Panoka.
Yeah.
Going back to the things that were pulled from the consent agenda, trustee Lauren, you pulled 2.1.1.
Oh, yes, and
Are
actually,
we done with that? Sorry.
Can we just go back to the calendar for a quick minute and see who's going to PSB in October?
Yeah, I am.
I am.
Yeah, because you need to get registration.
That's at the Doubletree again, I think.
It is, yes.
is that Edmonton or Belfast?
And then, yeah, just September 9th is the one, but I'll probably send it, they'll probably want numbers in a week or two.
So only 2 people are going?
And one of you forward the minutes from the last time?
We're good.
And one of you forward the minutes from the last, from VSBA? Find it in my, really updated and upgraded.
I don't know if I have that.
Or like their, his notes on there. It would be.
Oh, from the PSPC?
Yeah.
Can do that. You done with the calendar now? Or is it something else?
I'll just say one other thing, Mr. Chair. So next Friday is kickoff. We're not having a kickoff, like a full blown kickoff per se, but we are doing an opening address. And then we have some, our K to 6 teachers, for example, are being involved in a 1-hour session around our school using, can you speak to it for a moment, Cheryl, just briefly?
Yeah, you bet. I just had it's actually Empower School and understanding the grading system for our elementary teachers in particular grades,
Yeah.
K to 6.
And Kristen, we're having another group as an office manager.
I just did office managers today, information specialist.
Yes.
And then the office manager who wants double training.
Right.
Is,
And it's on the new website, right? Yeah. So we're doing bits and pieces like that, but for the most part, it'll be teachers in getting ready, the different pieces that we're having all of our principals there that day as well. So the board chair will bring greetings and we'll probably be in the room upstairs there. And then principals will be in here and subsequent to that, we'll all engage in our first administrators meeting for the day. For the year.
We will get to meet with them, or you guys?
Oh, this is the management level meeting. It's just our piece, yeah. So, yeah, so other than that, I don't think there's anything else on the calendar for us.
I'd like if we could do an advocacy committee meeting, but we could decide about it.
Sure.
Together.
Okay. 2.1.1, between norm.
Yes, so, when I was reading the minister's letter, I was wondering about,
Sorry, but 2.1.1 was the
oh, sorry.
regular meeting of the board.
No, the regular meeting of the board. Okay, we said, it was just a correction. I had, been the person to make the motion to accept that as presented. And then it was August 19th for our board meeting. And I was just like, what? Did I miss the board meeting? And so I'm just saying it should be corrected to August 20th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And where was that?
Where are you referring to?
I think that's in the other minute. That would have
The
been.
minutes.
The organizational meeting?
The organizational
Yes.
meeting?
Oh, could it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not in-
No, June. No.
The board meeting dates?
Oh, it was board meeting dates. That's what it was.
That's next year.
Oh, okay. I just about had a heart attack. I was just like, don't tell me.
I was gonna say, it says the 20th, but.
Okay. Okay. Sorry.
Okay, so 2.7.2.
Move it for the-
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be both of them. And then can we move that? We're just moving it for information, right?
Yeah.
Have a motion.
Have to have a motion for that.
Want to make a motion there, trustee Lauren?
Yes.
All in favor? There we go. I think I've never been here. Okay, the letter?
So I brought it forward because we hadn't heard from Fairview College. But then when they were talking, I realized, well, it's okay because, although I don't know if it is okay. Sorry, I'll get to the point. So, when they were talking about, programs that were offered, they were talking about, what is that called? CTS credits. And I said, I was thinking to myself, do they not have CTS credits for like food, like growing in the greenhouse or, the kids learning, agricultural things. And so I Googled it and I saw that Vermilion, Lethbridge and Grand Prairie, and there was another college that did have those CTS credits. And so then I was thinking, well, surely Fairview does, but I'm thinking that it was just old information that hasn't been revised because it's so new. They just made arrangements with the ministers to transfer. So I was operating on old information
From this letter?
from the letter, or no, from Google, that what courses are being offered. And so I think that I was premature in bringing this forward. So I'm just telling you guys that I was premature in bringing that letter forward because I think that things are going to be changing.
Have a motion to move that for information, please. Trustee Dick, all in favor? I think we're there, right? Trustee Bazinski moves to be adjourned. All in favor?
Mr.